Yeah! Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is the weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris. Right? Anybody else here? Nope. It's only me. What am I going to do? I'm going to talk to you about comic books. We've got a lot of comic book news to talk about. Most of it fun. Some of it mind-boggling. But that's the fun. We'll all be chatting, the live chat, me. I'll read your comments later once this is up for on demand. Got comics to review this week. All sorts of interesting stuff. Can't wait for that. Sincerely looking forward to it. This was a blast, by the way, if you didn't pick it up. Startling Tales of Santa Claus. Oh, it's fun. We're gonna draw and I'll promote my shows, but that's later. We've got themes. Tell you what, before I get into anything, I'll just give a couple quick shout outs. Although, wow, the chat is actually moving really fast. So I might miss a few people, and I'm not trying to pick favorites or anything. I'm just sort of jumping through and saying hello. I appreciate y'all being here. It means a lot to me, and I think it's additive to the show. This is lovely. Thank you very much. All right. I like hearing that. I love comics too. No matter what, I sincerely love comics. I am behind you. Oh, that's what I felt. It's like very... I'll stop now before I go too far. I'll stop now. Nice sort of thank you. This is my Godzilla cardigan. I like cardigans. They're very comfortable. Last night, I went to a friend's Christmas party, and it was ugly sweater themed, which was awesome. There were some hilarious ugly Christmas sweaters there, and I know I have one or two. I couldn't find them. That's a surprise, right? This is the guy who's been promising you I'll review the Jaws manga for like 2 years, but I can't find it. Somewhere in my house. Yeah, I couldn't find my ugly Christmas sweater, so I was like, well, this is green and red, so kind of. Anyway, it's what I wore. Tell you what, we have a lot to talk about tonight. So instead of me yammering on about stuff nobody cares about, let's get into the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi, guys. This is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
There it is, right over here. The news. That's probably one of the worst thumbnails I've made. Look at how complex it is. How do you describe a battle between two different, entertainment conglomerates over a third, but then talk about how that would impact a subdivision of that company that they're fighting over? I don't know. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat. Steve, time to toast this stream with sugar-free Mountain Dew Baja Blast. All I have is this delicious coffee, but it has a little more caffeine in it, which means I'm up here. A normal Chris is down here. A sugar-free Mountain Dew has me up here, but a coffee has me up here. Who knows what I'll be like when I start on my new cocaine habit. Does that get me demonetized? It's a joke. All right, so we'll get to this big topic. Let's ease into things. This one was just fun. This past weekend, if you didn't know, was 2 comic book conventions that are pretty big. The Tokyo Comic-Con and also CCXP down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Well, in Brazil, Todd McFarlane announced a bunch of upcoming DC multiverse figures, and I just have these screen caps that people that were at the convention showed. I think so. There's just some interesting choices in here. I've never gotten into collecting either the DC multiverse or the Marvel Legends because I know that if I started, I'd never stop. But I like them. I think they're cool. If somebody gave me one as a gift, I'd be over the moon. But if I started buying them myself, I'd never stop. And yeah, that was part of what I was going to mention. McFarlane is eventually losing the license, but he's got it for now before Mattel gets it back. And yeah, so he's still announced some of the upcoming stuff. This Joker is definitely based on the Jack Nicholson version of Joker in the 1989 movie. We've got some pretty obscure ones here. Detective Chimp coming with Zatanna. If that comes together, I feel like that's a pretty darn good value. Professor Pig, that's a pretty recent villain. All sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. Ice, I like that. Those are 2 bucket list cons for me as well, Steve. Totally agree. I would love to go to both Brazil and, of course, Tokyo. I would love to go for the actual comic convention at some point. I would be very, very into both of those. Glad you're watching. Thank you so much. Yeah, Blackhawk. That's pretty cool. It's amazing how many different comic properties DC specifically bought over the years, you know? I mean, they've got Plastic Man and Shazam, Peacemaker and The Question, Blackhawk. It's interesting, you know, those were all at companies other than DC that DC just bought. Anyway, just thought I'd share this. These are prototype digital images of upcoming stuff. Then look at this. This is from the Grant Morrison Superman and the Authority run. That's kind of cool. I don't know. When is Aztec getting a figure? Probably about like 3 weeks after Black Vulcan, the knockoff Black Lightning that they made for the cartoon. Hey, who knows? Maybe someday. Maybe someday. I'm curious what kind of stuff they'll do in the future, McFarlane, because losing the DC license like frees up a lot of bandwidth for them. So we'll see. Just something fun to show. Hubba. Colin Jost has a pretty wife. Why am I talking about this? ScarJo is apparently in talks to star in The Batman Part 2 by director Matt Reeves. We already know that Matt Reeves and co-writer Mattson Tomlin completed a script for this. This has definitely taken them a while to make the sequel, isn't it? Because The Batman came out, what? Is it 3 years ago now? It's at least 2. It's been a while. Anyway, in June, they announced that they completed the sequel. I'm glad they're taking their time, at least, you know? The film itself is expected to shoot this coming spring, which means it would be coming out around October of 2027. So it's still a ways off. I liked that movie. I liked it more than I expected to. You know, a reboot so soon after the movies that we'd got, I wasn't going in excited for it, to be honest, although I liked everyone involved. But ultimately, I did like it quite a bit. It really gave me a detective story and a story where Batman has an arc. You know, he does grow and change by the end. I thought it was a cool take on the Riddler. And no matter what else, I'll say it led to a fantastic Riddler comic book written by the actor Paul Dano. I was stunned at how good that was. Paul Dano had basically created a backstory for himself, but he wrote it as a comic script. And eventually DC was like, well, let's turn it into a comic. Riddler Year One. And it was really good. It was stunningly good. Yeah, people in the chat are already talking about my next bullet point here. Who would she be playing? You know, fan sites are putting out some of the most prominent ideas. Vicky Vale, of course, you know, prominent. By that same token, I don't know why Silver St. Cloud wouldn't be up there. I don't know. I think less likely are some of the villains that they put, like Phantasm. We already know the twist to that. You know, we've seen Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Might be the best Batman movie, arguably. Poison Ivy, I mean, maybe. I just got such a grounded feel from the Batman that to go with a superpowered being would be different. I'm not against it. And then I've seen district attorneys suggested. Janice Porter, Janet Van Dorn. They both have interesting stories where their the most prominent district attorney after Harvey Dent gets injured and becomes Two-Face. You know, Janice Porter falls for him, and Janet Van Dorn has a lot to go on too. Yeah, Tarantino specifically read the Riddler comic and said, not that good. I like my comics from the 1970s. Oracle, that's an interesting idea. Nora Dent, of course. I don't remember off the top of my head Summer Gleason, to be honest. That's not coming to me. I don't know. I don't know who she could be playing. But she is a great actress. I'm not going to lie. I think she sincerely is. She's been in some dramas that are fantastic, and she does good in franchises. I was totally not into the Jurassic World movies. Though those three, I thought that they were a lot dumber than the first three. But I thought the last Jurassic World movie with ScarJo was pretty good, to be honest. I was surprised. I was like, yeah, that was fun. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun. Oh, she's from the cartoon? Got it. Okay, I guess I'm not a super expert on Batman the Animated Series. I've definitely seen a bunch, and everything I've always seen, I was impressed with. From the animation to the tone to the characters that they would choose, the voice actors that they would hire. But I guess I haven't really watched any of that in a long time now that I think of it. Yeah, well, we'll see. What else? This was a fun thing that just happened today, kind of small, but DC launched an actual trailer across social media. Here on YouTube, you can see it. Trailer for Vertigo. That's going to be their imprint. The difference between Black Label and Vertigo is Black Label will sort of be more aimed at adults, often out of continuity, but still use DC characters. Vertigo is going to also be aimed at more adult readers, but will be creator-owned. So we're probably not going to see a new Hellblazer or Swamp Thing book under the Vertigo label this time. But that's sort of the difference. Anyway, Vertigo is definitely coming back. Now, I'm of two opinions there. I think the Vertigo of the late 80s and throughout the 90s was fantastic. It was really, really strong. Some great books. And a lot of the ones that I've seen for the upcoming line do look interesting. But I really think that line, we owe most of its quality to the curation of it. And that was because of the main editor. And all of a sudden, her name is eluding me. What was it? Karen Berger. Excuse me. Karen Berger. Great taste. I just think Karen Berger, and don't get me wrong, there were lots of other great people with her, Shelley Bond and stuff like that. But I think it was Karen Berger's taste. Anyway, the Vertigo trailer announced that they're going to launch initially 4 comics, one each. I say one a month. I meant one each week throughout February. I mistyped there, okay? We've got James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno. They're continuing The Nice House by the Sea. That is now under the Vertigo label. Dennis Camp and Stepan Morian are doing Bleeding Hearts, an interesting zombie book, it looks like. Kyle Starks and Steve Pugh, they've got a really well-rendered, realistic-looking book that still looks funny, End of Life. And we've got Chris Condon, who I loved on That Texas Blood, and Jacob Phillips, great artist. They're doing a noir character called Ezra Kane. So could be cool. Could be cool. Vertigo, that's a pretty important brand for DC. They don't want to damage that, I would say. I really hope they get it right. I don't know if they will or not, but these creators that they've lined up, I'm interested in. So hopefully. That's their new tagline. Get them before they're Vertigone. Dennis Camp all day. Yeah, no, Dennis Camp has had a fantastic year, I will say. Like in general, like he's a good writer, but this past year has been really good. I also am excited for 100 Bullets sequel. Yeah, We'll see. Well, is it going to be Netflix's or not? That's something I'm going to be talking about because there's been a big twist to that story. But I'll get there. I'll get there. I know. Absolute Martian Manhunter is getting so much acclaim. His Image book, what is it? Assorted Crisis Events. The stuff he's doing on the Ultimates at Marvel. I mean, he's doing top tier work at 3 different publishers. Very impressive. Very impressive. All right. What else have we got? Small one, but an update for some of my viewers who might be abroad. DC has expanded who can access their digital comics library, that DC Universe Infinite. They've added 8 European countries: Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, and Sweden. Very cool. This is their platform. They've got over 35,000 of their comics archived, growing every day. They've also got their DC Go lineup of new comics that are vertical scrolling, webtoon format. And one new thing is that the platform is going to be available to these new readers in Europe, also on web browser. Before this, outside of the US, you could only access it through apps on like the tablet or the phone. But they're going to use a web browser where you can do it as well. So good for them. Might be a cheaper way to get your comics than imported, right? So I thought I'd just spread the news. This one stunned me. So Batman Deadpool, I thought that was a really good comic. As far as a crossover comic goes, it was a blast. It looked good. It was fun. But apparently, the DC Batman Deadpool has sold a lot less than Marvel's Deadpool Batman, according to several comics retailers. Oh, thank you. It was so nice of Jake to invite me on his show. Yeah, if you folks don't know, I got interviewed on the YouTube comic book show, The Brave and the Boys. I had a good time. We talked about starting up a comic book YouTube channel as the thrust of it, but we talk about all sorts of comic stuff. It was really fun. Thank you. Anyway, back to this news. So DC's did not sell as well as Marvel's. So I would say that the DC version generally got much better reviews. I think it was better than Marvel's. I don't think Marvel's was garbage, but overall, the main story was better and the backups were all good. Whereas Marvel had like 2 that I thought were good and like 3 or 4 that were eh. So I thought the DC version was much better, but it did come out a month after Marvel. And it's like, how much Batman Deadpool do people want, right? I don't know. Maybe they should have found a way to co-publish it instead of each publishing their own version. I don't know what the answer is. Anyway, Brian Hibbs, he tracks comic sales. He's written about, sales trends and stuff. He's also a comic book shop owner, The Comic Experience in San Francisco. He posted to his website on Facebook this week that he sold out instantly the Marvel version, but the DC one kind of actually sitting there on the shelf. It's not selling as quickly. Ooh. Some possible reasons that were discussed. Marvel did make ratio variant covers. You order 100, you can order this one. That's an incentive for stores because it gets them something valuable. Also, Marvel priced all of their versions at $6.99, but DC priced theirs at $7.99 for their main version, and then they had different covers that cost up to $10. $1 difference doesn't sound like a lot, but $8 for a one-shot comic does sound like a lot. It gets people to pause, especially after they've already read these 2 characters last month, Thank you for this support, Steve. Let's see. What was your favorite side story? For me, it was absolutely the Doctor Strange Constantine story. I thought that thing was fantastic. Really, really good. Yeah, I literally had picked one up and saw the price on it and then saw that the main one cost $1 less. And I was like, I'm not going to spend an extra $1 today. It adds up. because I get a bunch of comics. I'm surprised. DC, I mean, look, did they sell a lot? Yes. But is it moving from the actual stores? Not the same that Marvel's did. And Marvel, I think, even did a reprint, didn't they? I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure Marvel did a reprint. But DC's isn't moving the same. Brian Hibbs, you should go to his page and see, because he breaks down what he spent and what he got back, for profit on the Marvel one, and is basically breaking even or slightly losing money on the DC one. And then there's all these replies from other comic book shop owners from, abroad in Australia, from all sorts of other states, so that you get a smattering of all across the country, Pennsylvania, New York City, Missouri. They're all represented, different comic shop owners saying what their experience is, and it pretty much matches. Now, of course, that's not completely scientific. They're responding to a post that they're like, yeah, I had a similar experience. It's not like they were being surveyed by an independent source, but it is at least an interesting piece of ephemera to discuss. It seemed weird to me. It always seemed weird that DC was going to publish a one-shot a month after Marvel published their one-shot. It's just, I know that they're different creative teams and different stories, but it is still the same two characters as a one-shot. And to sort of double dip on the audience that quickly always sort of surprised me. That was a really good one in the Marvel book. Yeah. Captain America, Wonder Woman was very, very hopeful and nice. I like that. That's interesting. I didn't come across that, but maybe that's just because of the world that I live in, but yeah. I think Hibbs said he was making a slight profit on the DC one, but that becomes a slight loss when you add in shipping. Yes, exactly. And I think he said, look, I still got some. And, once they all sell, I'll probably have made a small profit. But when you stretch it out over several months and you consider the labor costs and stuff, it doesn't always seem worth it. I bet the discrepancy is more or less people thinking it's just a second print. There could be a little bit of that confusion. There definitely could be. When you have all these variant covers, if you bought a Batman Deadpool in November, and then the next month you went to the store and you saw this, you might go, cool cover. I read it already. You might not be seeing that the Deadpool and Batman names have flipped. And that's one of the problems with all these variant covers, I think. I think it confuses more casual readers that are still willing to spend the money, but they're not watching my show or something like that and keeping up with the comics news. And I don't expect every comic reader to do that. You have to be really plugged into the community to know some of these things. Marvel and DC have already said they're going to continue collaborating into 2026, including Superman, Spider-Man for their 50th anniversary crossover. And I think that's fun. I think when you hire the top talent, like in this case, Grant Morrison and Dan Mora, they're going to put something together really good no matter what. They are. And I like that. But they should be very aware of how the audience perceives it in terms of releasing their own version. Because they can do things where one fronts the publishing, printing costs, and distribution, and then they figure out a way to split the profits afterwards. Things like that. Yeah. I think that there's a chance that there's a good chunk of the comic reading audience that's a little more casual that might not have known the difference, that might have thought it was either a reprint or another variant cover. I think that there's always that chance. And I think that there's the chance that people were like, I have so much money to spend on comics. I would like to read both, but I can't. And I already bought the first one that came out. And unfortunately, I would say that the second one is the superior one. You didn't. And you're pretty plugged in, Chuck. I mean, you make comics and you watch this show and you didn't realize. So yeah. All I can say, folks, is if you're only realizing it now, this book, Batman Deadpool, I would still call it worth it. It's expensive, but it's got some fantastic supporting stories in it. And the main story is really good. Really, really good. So just sharing that. It was interesting. I didn't necessarily expect that, although what I'm arguing, I think, makes sense. Being second, confusion over variants, budget. These are all real concerns. Here's another sort of thing of Marvel and DC. So Bloomberg had a report this week that Warner Brothers is in discussions with technically several theme parks, but most prominently with Universal Studios Orlando to potentially license the DC Comics characters to them for various rides. And hey, that'd be fun. Universal Studios is a really fun park. If this went through, though, it would very likely mean that Universal would break down their long-standing Marvel Islands of Adventure area. There's no way they're going to have both Marvel and DC. It's just never going to happen. It wouldn't. It's weird. People like the Marvel Islands of Adventure thing, but of course, Marvel isn't actively supporting that anymore. That's like a legacy contract, okay? The legacy contract is, as long as Universal maintains it to a certain level, they get to keep that license to make the Marvel rides. They can't, I don't think, make new ones, to be honest. But as long as they maintain it and it's like, cool and exciting, they can probably do new parades and new decoration and stuff like that. They get to maintain that license. But if they ever stop, the license rights all revert to Disney, who of course owns Marvel. So, it would be a big decision for Universal if they thought that they could now make more money by licensing some DC characters instead of keeping Marvel. But they can't really update the Marvel. Like if you go to Marvel Islands of Adventure, it very much looks like Marvel of the 90s. It isn't like shabby, but like all the designs and ideas are very 90s based. Currently, to be clear, Warner Brothers does license all of their DC character stuff to Six Flags. If you go to Six Flags, there's Superman and Batman, Wonder Woman rides, all that good stuff. There's no word, they didn't talk at all, if that would go away. Probably wouldn't. I don't think it would be worth it to Warner Brothers to license their stuff to Universal and get rid of all the Six Flags stuff. But it might be like a non-exclusive thing where, yeah, Universal gets to do their newer version. Six Flags gets to keep stuff. Hey, Jeansy. Thanks for watching. So, some of the Marvel stuff does exist, at various Disney parks now. But, I think that there are still limits to what they can adapt. So, for instance, if you go to Disney, I know that they've got things like a Guardians of the Galaxy ride or Avengers Campus. But they don't have, I don't think, like a Spider-Man ride. They've got like Spider-Man attractions, but I don't think that they have a Spider-Man ride, if I'm remembering right. They don't have like X-Men rides because they can't directly compete with what already exists at Universal. So it's pretty confusing. But I don't know. Do you think Universal would make more with like brand new rides based on DC characters? Or do you think that they should just hold on to their existing 90s Marvel theme? When I was in Japan 2 times ago, so like a year and a half ago, I went to Universal Studios to see Super Mario World. They didn't have Super Mario World here in the US yet, and I wanted to see that and it was fun. And since I was in there, I did the Spider-Man ride, and that was in its last month of existing. And once that shut down, they lost the license, like that it was gone. So there is no more Spider-Man ride at Universal Tokyo. Not Tokyo, Universal Japan, because they're more close to Kyoto. It was a pretty good ride. It was pretty good. Although I'm a little burned out on there's a modern trend, not too much with Disney, but with like all the other theme parks, of having, you're sort of on a people mover and they just have things projected on a screen. And I do think that that's a little boring to only do that. If you do that like in segments, cool. But I want to see some animatronics. I want to see some physical effects, you know, steam or light or water. I want to see that kind of stuff to really immerse myself. If you go to Universal, a stunning amount of their rides are, you're on a people mover and all of a sudden like the Fast and Furious guys are just over there on a screen saying like, hi. It's not that exciting. Anyway. Yeah, Six Flags is that old guy. I don't think that they really use that old dancer guy anymore, but anyway. Yeah, a Punisher version of A Small World. That would definitely be a big hit. Anyway, I'll move on. We'll talk about what I put in the thumbnail. Boy, has it gotten confusing as of today. So I'm breaking this down because Warner Brothers has put itself up for sale, okay? And Warner Brothers, yeah, I think primarily people quickly think of the movies. This year they've had lots of hits, to be honest. Weapons, Sinners, F1, Superman. They've had a great year for movies. Warner Brothers specifically did. They've also got a lot of TV stuff. You know, they've got all the Looney Tunes stuff. They've got Game of Thrones through HBO. They've got a lot of properties in TV that are good, although this year their TV division lost basically a shit ton of money is the scientific term for it. And that's really what's dragging them down, unfortunately. But they also, relevant to us, Warner Brothers owns DC Comics. So if Warner Brothers is going to sell itself, that means that DC Comics will have new owners, new bosses. Okay. And that changes potentially what a company's goals are. With, you know, sure, everybody wants the intellectual property of Batman and Superman, but let's put this in perspective. Superman and Batman and some of the other characters are right around 10 years from going into the public domain. Now, that doesn't mean that you or I are going to be able to create a look-alike version of these characters. You know, there are still trademarks, and not everything that's ever been associated with these characters goes into the public domain. It's each story at a time. But it will dilute the brand a little bit if all of a sudden there's like, you know, we just know that the second Superman hits public domain, we're going to get a shitty horror movie, right? I mean, that's what happens with all this stuff like Winnie the Pooh. It becomes, oh, here's the horror version of Popeye. Great. Very exciting. But it changes things. By the way, this would be, if you're counting, the fourth time. I mean, it is going to sell. So it's going to be the fourth time that Warner Brothers has changed ownership within 10 years. That's a lot of turnover. That's a lot. That's hard to get things on stable footing. If you're wondering why DC movies were so unstable, part of that is a new owner coming in and having a new idea of what to do with these incredibly popular brands. It's crazy. So this week, after accepting multiple bids, the Warner Brothers Board of Directors announced that they were accepting Netflix's bid to buy them for right around $72, and let me emphasize this, $billion. That's an unfathomable, offensive amount of money. Billion. It's literally beyond my comprehension when I truly try to grasp the enormity of billions. It's so big. It's so big. But okay, out of like all the choices, I was going, if they're gonna sell, I guess that's okay. I'm not excited about the idea at all. But I go, okay, okay, I guess. Here's the concern. Netflix has not shown much interest in publishing, right? Keep in mind, they bought Miller World from Mark Miller. Anything he creates through Miller World, Netflix owns. They can adapt, Jupiter's Legacy or Nemesis or anything else that he comes up with through Miller World. But they clearly haven't done anything too proactive in terms of publishing that stuff. I think that they've licensed some of it to be published through Dark Horse. But and any of us that have Netflix know that while they sometimes produce some really good stuff, I'm not saying that they don't. I personally like Stranger Things quite a bit. I thought Ozark was overall very good. They also will ruthlessly cancel anything that doesn't hit whatever metrics they have, right? How many shows have you enjoyed on Netflix only to find out it ended right after season 1 or 2? Like no follow-up, one-shot movie. It's gone. They're ruthless. They're ruthless. Less bad than Disney. By the way, Disney is not anywhere near as big as companies like Warner Brothers or Paramount or anything like that. Disney's big, don't get me wrong. They turn over a lot of money. They're not a conglomerate. They have maintained, they do the theme parks and their movies, and they bought like ABC basically, but they're not anywhere near as big. They're nowhere close to how big Warner Brothers is. Nowhere near. So the idea of Disney buying them, it couldn't really happen. Be the other way around, if anything. But anyway, that was the news. And in fact, I even, as a Netflix subscriber right now, I'm planning on canceling in January, but I got an email from Netflix saying, hey, we still have to pass regulatory hurdles, but we are going to buy Warner Brothers, and HBO Max and Netflix will stay separate. I got an email and I'm going, oh, I guess this is moving forward, right? I wonder what'll happen to DC is all I've been wondering this week. Yeah, they exactly right, EJ. They just cancel stuff ruthlessly. And on one level, I go, that's good business. But on another level, I go, Netflix spends so much money making their original programming that it's like they don't even care how much money they lose. I believe Netflix is not currently profitable. I'd have to double check, but I don't think that they're profitable. So the fact that they were getting this massive loan to buy this it was crazy. Yeah, they filmed, that's a great point that's relevant to the comic book world. They filmed 8 episodes of a Grendel show, live action, decided not to edit it and release it into the world. We'll never see it. They're ruthless that way. And as somebody that loves going to the theater, I get it. They're not really motivated to release something in the theater, with the exception of if they think they can get just sort of a 1-week big influx of money, or put it out so that they can be eligible for certain Oscars and other awards. That's the only reason they'll release stuff theatrically. But, I'm sure that out there, the ghosts of David Lean and David Lynch and presumably other great directors named David love the idea of people watching their movies on their phone in their bed at night. Oh yeah, Lawrence of Arabia, pretty good. Yeah, Netflix, just to let you know, with ads, you're going to be going from the tier of $20 a month to $3,428 a month. Just letting you know, there's a small price hike coming up. Be ready for that 3,000. But anyway, let me move to the next thing. This morning, Paramount came in and said, you rejected our bid. We're going to do a hostile takeover. They've announced that despite Warner Brothers saying they're going with Netflix, Paramount says that they still want Warner Brothers, and so they are going to buy up all of their stock that's available at more than its current worth. They're saying they'll pay $30, which has bumped the actual like trade price up to something like $28, very close to it. But like they're paying more than the stock is worth, okay? It would basically amount to about $108 billion. That would basically bypass the board of directors doing what they will argue to their shareholders is the fiscally responsible decision, and just tell the shareholders, guess what? We'll buy your stock for more than it's worth so that we can own this. That's rare. I mean, it happens when one business really thinks that they need or want another business, or that they could be at a competitive disadvantage if they lose that business to another competitor. So I guess Paramount probably looked at this and said, well, we were willing to bid this much, but if Netflix and Warner Brothers becomes one entity, that makes us this much smaller, so we can't risk that. DC Comics could never get together enough capital, unfortunately. I'm going to talk about why, but they could never do it. They could never get there. It's just $108 billion. You cannot just get a loan as like one company or anything, to be clear. To get $108 billion, you have to have multiple wealthy investors that are getting that money from banks. And by the way, that will include Jared Kushner, our president's son-in-law. And I mentioned that because President Trump has been saying he wasn't sure he'd let his regulators approve the Warner Brothers Netflix deal. He wants it to go to Paramount. And some of it is because his son-in-law stands to make a huge amount of money. But here's the thing. Paramount, we need to remember, look, I love Star Trek. SpongeBob is adorable. Paramount has some great stuff. Their Sonic movies are good. But it is owned by the Ellisons. And they are far right-wing. And they have specifically said they want to buy the Comcast, the Warner Brothers thing to shut down CNN or change CNN. They want to make it a more right-leaning network. That's specifically a goal of theirs. If you can influence the news, you can influence policy. This is so much bigger than comics. And it's disappointing because, I like plenty of these movies and TV shows. I don't like thinking about the business. But I'm talking about all of this because this is the stuff that's happening at the $1 billion level. Comics are at the $1 million level, folks. Here's me trying to look at it positively. If Paramount now does this hostile takeover and they own DC Comics with everything else, would that mean that DC Comics can now make comics based on Star Trek and SpongeBob? Probably would. And that's a benefit to the comics. But the comics business is a rounding error when you consider their revenue, okay? Warner Brothers Discovery revenue last year, you can look this stuff up because they've big companies like this have to file their financials publicly. Warner Brothers Discovery revenue last year was $39 billion. Not profit. I'm just saying that's the money they took in. $39 billion. Okay. DC Comics, a division of that, they had about $440 million of revenue. Think of that. That's less than half of $1 billion, it's less than an 80th of the business. DC Comics is less than an 80th of Warner Brothers business. DC Comics has largely been allowed to just do its own thing because who cares if it makes money or lose money? It isn't that much money to them as long as they can maintain the rights and get all these new stories for Superman and Batman and, Joker and all this stuff. That's what's valuable to them. If Netflix gets it, I feel like they'd be more likely to license the DC characters out to Marvel, to Dark Horse, to Dynamite, who knows, maybe a bunch of places. They'd license it out to keep it alive, but they have no interest in running the publishing themselves. If Paramount buys it, it'll probably continue business as usual. Probably. Yeah, let me do that. I'll win Powerball and use that money to buy DC Comics away from these guys and just let them run as their own business. It's depressing. But do you understand? Like, that's almost the most relevant piece of what I'm talking about here, folks. DC Comics is worth less than an 80th of the overall revenue for a given year. That's very small. It's not nothing. They're happy to get it, but it's not a lot. Here's what will be stable. James Gunn has a contract to run DCU through 2027. And even if one of these companies buys Warner Brothers, there's going to be regulatory hurdles to get through before it gets approved. Okay. So we are probably going to just stay stable with the DCU movies for now anyway. Hopefully they make some good movies and they get left alone. Hopefully. Otherwise, it'll get reset again. But I do think, if there's a big change like this, is Jim Lee liable to just decide to step down? He's been the president at DC for a while. Maybe this is an opportunity for him to just leave and let a new series of people take over. James Gunn has been good at promoting the comics, the trades, talking them up. And my understanding is that has helped when the movies have come out and the TV shows that DC tends to sell well in the trades because James Gunn will talk about it on social media. Well, that's all to be decided as to whether it would affect current budgets for comics or films, because it hasn't been approved yet. Okay. But as of right now, Paramount has announced its intention to do a hostile takeover. And if I see no reason why they wouldn't at this point. I think that the most likely thing at this point is that they buy up the stock and then they become the majority owners. Would I like to buy it? I don't think I want that headache. I'd buy the comics. If I was independently wealthy. I'd buy the comics and very much start over. Let them do their own thing. Think of if they hadn't been bought, if DC or Marvel hadn't been bought, back in the 70s and 80s, and then traded with all these companies. I mean, if they could just license their stuff and run their own movies and stuff, boy, they'd make a lot of money. Anyway, it's some crazy news. The ultimate thing I can say here, none of this has happened yet, and it does have technically government regulatory hurdles to cross. But if you ask me to bet on it, I would say that with Paramount's announcement that they will do the hostile takeover and spend this much, I doubt anybody's going to pay more than this $108 billion. I think that already is a silly number to pay for Warner Brothers, and to pay more than that would be stupid. It would be stupid. It's already stupid to pay $108 billion for it. I don't think it's worth $72 billion, but I understand that it's going to sell for that. Monopolies are technically illegal. It just, we used to have, if we jump back 30 years, we might have had sort of 10 entertainment companies of size, and now we're down to 5. Anyway, I think that's everything I've got to say about that topic. We've got other stuff to talk about, and some of it's very fun, so I am going to move on. But I'll be following this story the same way I followed the Diamond bankruptcy, the same way I followed the Angouleme Festival drama. I'll keep following it, folks. And if we learn anything as to how it relates to the comics specifically, I'll be talking about it some more. But this is more of like a table set to say something's going to change. DC will likely have new owners within a year. It's good to know up front. All right, we'll switch over to Marvel. Dan Abnett. Dan Abnett used to be a writer with a writing partner, Andy Lanning. They wrote a lot together. Now they've gone their own separate ways, but Abnett was one of the two forces that wrote the Annihilation event, which was one of those cool, what do they call them? When like something goes under the radar but is really successful. There's like a term for something like that's not coming to me. Anyway, Annihilation was a big successful event, and then Abnett and Lanning launched Guardians of the Galaxy out of that. The version that the movies are based on, that's very much based on their comics coming out of Annihilation. Before that, Guardians of the Galaxy specifically was a group in like the 30th century of the Marvel Universe. So anyway, but he's coming back. Dan Abnett is coming back to Guardians, and he hasn't written that since basically it was sleeper hit. Thank you. That's what I was talking about. Annihilation was a sleeper hit. Yep, 6767. All right. Imperial Gardens is the name of it. Did I say Gardens? You ever listen to Angry Video Game Nerd, I should say. Boy, that shows my age. I like his show, but James Rolfe definitely has a thick Pennsylvanian accent, and he'll say things like mountains, like mountains. I climbed the mountains. It's not mispronouncing. It's a very subtle accent that Pennsylvanians have, and he's got a thick one. Anyway, that's a good point. Keith Giffen also did a lot behind Annihilation. I wasn't trying to shortchange him, but I am trying to talk about Dan Abnett here. By the way, where did they get it? The Ellisons are very rich, and like I say, they're teaming up with people like shareholders that have their own money, like what's Trump's Jared Kushner and stuff like that, so they can all get loans together. Yeah, he calls like Wolfman. It's funny, but I felt like I just did that. Imperial Gardens. But anyway, Imperial Guardians is going to spin out of the recent Imperial event that Hickman wrote. Launches in March. We've got art by Marcelo Ferreira. And the new team is going to be assembled by Maximus. I didn't keep up to date with all of this. Maximus he's a bad guy. He's an Inhuman. He's the brother of Black Bolt. But he's somehow assembling this team. Look at this. Captain Marvel. So I guess she must be leaving the Avengers. Darkhawk. Well, I like Darkhawk. I'm always happy to see more Darkhawk. Gamora. Amadeus Cho, and Cosmic Ghost Rider. I guess Cosmic Ghost Rider is now in the current timeline. If you don't know, that is a Frank Castle who became both a Herald of Galactus and an avatar from Mephisto. So he's both supernaturally and cosmically empowered. And their mission is to maintain order in the new Galactic Union. They're doing Maximus's dirty work, and he considers them expendable. Gamora is going to be the leader. That makes sense to me. Yeah, Darkhawk is just happy to be there. Brawn, or Amadeus Cho, is going to be running around in a Hulkbuster suit on top of that. So yeah, we've got a bunch of super powerful beings here. This was fun. This is, I told you earlier that there were two conventions this past weekend, Brazil's CCXP and the Tokyo Comic-Con. This is some news that came out of the Tokyo Comic-Con. Marvel is going to do a manga crossover with artist and writer Kia Asamiya. He previously has drawn a bunch of stuff for them. I would say most infamously the X-Men run by, what's my least favorite X-Men run? All of a sudden, I can't think of the writer. It doesn't matter then. But I like Kia Asamiya has a very stylized sense, very pointed noses. I like his style. He did some stuff with Runaways that I liked. Yep, Chuck Austin. Thanks everybody. Chuck Austin. Not Kia's fault. But Asamiya announced at Tokyo Comic-Con he's going to release a series in spring that crosses over Marvel's characters with the characters from his manga, Silent Mobius. Huh. Well, it's going to be in English, by the way. No immediate plans for a Japanese release. Probably won't be. Silent Mobius, if you don't know it, it follows an all-female police force that defends Earth against interdimensional invaders that are called Lucifer Hawks. Yeah, I think Kia did do a Batman graphic novel. Yes, that rings a bell. The manga ran from 89 to 99. It was also turned into an anime. I haven't seen it. I don't know Mobius, Silent Mobius. I don't know Silent Mobius, but I like Kia Asamiya, and these are both pieces of artwork that he created to promote it that were shown at the Tokyo Comic-Con. So that was a fun piece of news. I don't know what will happen with it, but it's a cool cosmic big idea. Sara Pichelli, she was in the news this week from CCXP. So the Brazilian site Jameson's released a piece of an interview that they did with Sara Pichelli, the artist who is the co-creator of Miles Morales. They did that at the convention this past weekend, and she revealed that she gets 0 royalties for any of like the comics, movies, video games, or toys based on Miles Morales. None. Pichelli said, here's part of her quote, translated from Portuguese to English. I don't get anything, and that's the saddest part of my life. Ouch. Ouch. I'll just sort of balance this a little with saying, despite this revelation that she makes nothing off of Miles Morales, Pichelli does seem to understand that was her contract. And she seems to have made peace with it because she has announced that she will do something new with Marvel this coming year alongside the other co-creator of Miles Morales, Brian Michael Bendis. So, yeah, I don't think that that's fair or right. I think that that is brutal when you consider how much stuff that's good that has come out of Miles Morales. And he was only created by them back in I want to say 2011. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that follow-up. She said today that was all taken out of context. I was going to say, she does say that so maybe she was just sort of being sarcastic and the translation didn't do it justice. But I don't think she makes any royalties. I think that that's true. Oh, she had a follow-up on socials. I missed that. She is doing something new with Marvel. The Miles Morales video game on PS5 is really good. Let me take a quick look at Sarah's Insta to see if I can understand if I got anything fundamentally wrong here, because I would want to correct it right away if I did. I wanted to let you... Okay. It got to my... This is a quote. Sorry. This is a quote from Sarah on her Instagram. It got to my attention a headline about me saying something about Miles royalties that was written after an interview here at CCXP. I wanted to let go, but since many of you are writing to me, I want to make things clear. That headline is an embarrassing clickbait news. Who wrote that? Twisted completely the tone of our conversation, which was relaxed and ironic. Plus, that was a tiny part of our conversation where I wasn't complaining or mad at all, just saying a few lines about the business industry. I know royalties and copyright are a hot topic, but please don't use me or my work or take sides or talk shit. I won't let you do that. Also, when a creator does an interview during a show, and CCXP was insanely busy, It's being generous and kind. Please don't ever take advantage of that to create questionable contents to get more followers. Be better, do better. So she isn't saying that like it's not true. She's just saying she was just sort of joking around. It's like she's not. I think what she's trying to clarify is that it is not the saddest part of her life. She was being ironic and sarcastic there. She knew what the contract was, and that makes sense when we know that she's doing new stuff with Marvel. That makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, a lot of the articles I saw were just like, Sara Pichelli is devastated over this, but that's reading too much into it. That's why I added this paragraph without even like anything else. I was like, well, even if she is saying that it's sad and these articles are saying she's devastated or something, I go, we know that she's doing something new with Marvel in the near future, so she can't be that upset. Yeah, and that's the other point, is she can say that and be okay with that, and I'm happy for her. She's a great artist, and I'm glad that she went in with open eyes. But when something becomes this big, I think that the right thing to do is to retroactively give a creator some sort of a new royalty thing. You're still going to be making plenty of money, but by keeping that creator happy or at least content, you're more likely to continue working with them, is all I'm saying. She's not mad. She's not mad. Like some of the articles were saying she's mad, but she was being sarcastic. I do. Kirkman is stuck to his guns. Anyway, I'll move on since I just read her follow-up. Here's a story that like frustrated me as a kitty cat lover, okay? Yes, but they could be arguing that they're returning value with fair royalty payments that encourage the top tier creators to continue working with them. So there are ways to present that. Otherwise, we'd never have any royalties, and we do have royalties. All right, let me talk about this unique comic book and cat store. So Cats and Comics Rescue is a story in Upland, California. And it relies on the sale of comic books and collectibles like Pokemon cards to support the care of dozens of rescue cats. And they're recovering from a break-in that happened this past Friday. Surveillance footage shows a suspect, and here's just a screen cap of it, shattering the front entrance around 5 a.m. on Friday. They headed directly for the store's display cases, and they took a bunch of comic books and Pokemon cards and other things. The value of the stolen merchandise estimated to be a little over $5,000. Bummer. This is a very small store. You are seeing almost the entire store here, just so you know. It's very small. The store owner, Jeremy Guerra, explained to KTLA News that they sell the comics at the store to support their mission. That's how it's related. They sell collectibles to pay for food and care and hospital stuff for rescuing and adopting stray cats. They currently have a space sort of in the back of this. They take care of 22 kitties. Customers that visit the store can pay $5 to spend time with the cats. It's a cat cafe, essentially. They're all available for adoption. That is the goal. Keep these cats alive, get them into forever homes. No kitties got out because I believe that they are kept in, at the end of the day, like, kennels in the back of the store. It's like behind a wall. Okay. So there's like the front of the business and there's the back that's like a shelter. But the cats can come up into the front if you visit it as a cafe. It's a felony and a feline. It's a feline. If this speaks to you at all, I just put up their website here where you can donate, and that goes towards getting them like, food and supplies and stuff like that. And if you live in the area, maybe you want to visit and even look into adopting a kitty. I think that, the fact that they've got the security footage and that they're attacking such a vulnerable small business that cares for animals, it's going to put a lot of attention on whoever did this. I hope that they get caught. I really do, because I love the idea of a cat cafe that sells comics and merchandise like that just to support taking care of kitties. I love it. Yes, where's Supergirl's cat when you need her? Yeah, I could put that link in chat. Give me 2 seconds here. Let me go back. I'll do this. And I'll do this. I'll put that in chat. And then I'll go back to presenting the news. So I put the link in chat, but there it is if you want to just type it in, catsandcomicsrescue.com/donate. All right, moving on. I love kitties. Appleseed, Masamune Shiro. Dark Horse announced that they're going to begin releasing deluxe editions of Appleseed by Masamune Shiro. Probably most famous for Ghost in the Shell, which he did after this. But Appleseed, I think, is also pretty well known. I mean, it's been turned into anime, and it's been out there for a long time, and people discover Masamune Shiro's incredible art. Anyway, I love the Dark Horse deluxe editions of manga. Love them. Here's the premise, if you don't know it, though. The year is 2127. That was a lot further in the future when this first came out. In the aftermath of a devastating global war, Dwayne and Brierios are just the kind of couple you'd want to find managing to survive. She's a former SWAT team member. He's a cyborg former mercenary. Both of them are found in the ruins by Hitomi, a young woman who recruits them to work for Olympus, an ultra-advanced experimental city-state that survived the apocalypse. So the upcoming deluxe editions, translated by Dana Lewis, Torrin Smith, and Dwayne Johnson. Not that Dwayne Johnson, obviously. Lettered by Tom Orzechowski, L. Lois Bohalis, John Clark, and Sasquatch. Not the real Sasquatch. Well, the real Sasquatch, but not the mythical cryptid. Anyway, the Appleseed Deluxe Edition collects books 1 through 4 of Appleseed. It's going to feature a wraparound 7-color artwork cover, metallic edge gilded pages, and 4-color end sheets along with a sewn-in bookmark. If you've ever picked any of these up, you know what quality they are. This deluxe edition is going to be available starting in August, so it's still a ways off, but it joins other Dark Horse deluxe editions. Do I have any here? No, they're all upstairs. I've got a bunch for Berserk, and then I switched over at some point to the Tankobon because they were ahead. But I've got a bunch for Berserk. They're great. Old Boy is coming out. Lone Wolf and Cub came out this past week. It's incredible, folks. It's definitely got me thinking that I might have to do a Lone Wolf and Cub episode of Comic Tropes soon. But they're really, really nice presentations. It's the kind of thing you put on a bookshelf instead of in a comic book box. But they're really a satisfying way to read manga because they're big and thick, but they're not heavy like, say, an Absolute Edition. They're not quite the same. Anyway, Appleseed is one that I like the ideas of it, but I was first introduced to the original anime, which was very limited animation. That was in a time when you basically went to the mall and you would go to the music store and they had like a video section where they would often have various anime movies and TV shows, but there was no online or easy review source for it. So you basically just had to look at the cover, always like shrink wrapped, look at the art, like read the back really carefully, for the premise and go like, yeah, and they cost a lot. We'll say like a regular VHS might have cost $20. Like anime was always like $35 or something. Yeah, exactly. Suncoast was one of them. And I took a chance on the Appleseed one and I was disappointed because I didn't know that it wasn't like a movie, that it was just going to be like regular TV level animation quality. So I remember being very disappointed when I first came across Appleseed because it's very limited. Camelot, Sam Goody, FYE, all gone, right? They are not around like they used to be. We used to have a local one in Massachusetts called Strawberries. Anyway, I worked for a wholesaler that sold VHS anime to comic shops and so on for a bit. Yeah. It was always tough, though, to go like, is this one going to be good? Is this one not going to be good? And sometimes I'd find great stuff, like I thought that the original Vampire Hunter D or Robot Circus or Robot Carnival, I guess it was called, Ninja Scroll. What were some of the others that were like in the 80s and 90s? Of course, Akira. I think I've said before, Captain Tita, Plastic Little was really good. What else did they have that was good back then? I remember just discovering all sorts of weird anime movies that like my friends and I would sort of trade or recommend to each other. Yeah, of course, I should have said related to this, Ghost in the Shell. That was awesome. Yeah. See, I saw Fist of the North Star. I was still pretty young, and I didn't know what to expect. So all that violence almost offended me when I first saw that. I didn't get that it was intentionally over the top. I didn't get any of that. Now I love Fist of the North Star. I find it very influential. I love the manga anyway. I love the manga quite a bit. Gundam I know nothing about. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. I've built a lot of the models back in the day, but I've never seen any of the anime. I don't know the story behind Gundam. I just like the look of it. Wicked City. Yeah, that was a cool discovery. Ratsuka Doji. JoJo also, I'm still like reading just like the first, no, yeah, I guess I finished the first volume and I'm into the second sort of storyline. About the space pirate, Captain Harlock? Are you thinking of Captain Harlock? I was exposed to a reasonable amount of anime when I was really young, before even like first grade, but I didn't know that it was like Japanese because they did import things before even Voltron. We had things like Guy King, and what else did they have? Astro Boy, and you would have these reruns, and it just looked and hit differently. It was really cool, and I would watch that stuff on like just TV. They would have it like on not the network stations, but like the local television broadcasters. It was really cool. Mazinger Z. Someday I'll do an episode about that creator too. Look Back. I recommended this manga on the show before. I also recommended the anime film adaptation of it. There's going to be another version. So the manga one-shot Look Back is by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Very famous these days for Chainsaw Man. Incredibly popular manga and anime. But it is going to be a live action film. Live action. Oh yeah, I'll definitely do a Go in the Guy episode at some point. Kore Eda, Hirokazu, Palme d'Or winner, great, well-respected filmmaker, currently editing a Look Back live action film for a 2026 release. Currently editing it. Very good. Look Back was adapted into a very successful anime film last year. If you haven't seen it, please make some time. I would recommend reading the manga first. It's beautiful. And I think that it hits emotionally the hardest as the manga. But the anime has some of the best animation that I've seen in the last couple of years. Really, really great detail. Really, really good. Okay. I like Chainsaw Man. I don't love it. I like it. But I do love the artwork and the ideas, and I love the one-shots and short mangas that Fujimoto-san has made. Really, really cool. Isn't it so good, the animation? Like, there are some scenes of like a girl splashing in puddles in the rain. Such a simple idea. It just looks gorgeous. It really, I love it. I love it. That's nice to hear. Koreeda is a great director. Good. That's nice to know, because I don't really know their work yet. But anyway, if you don't know it, I'll just give you the high level. It's about two very different girls who befriend each other over a shared love of drawing. Different types of artists, but they bond over that. They connect, I should say. They connect and then they bond, and they push each other to become better artists. And then there's a tragedy, and then everything changes. And I'm not going to get into like sort of the second half of the movie, but it's very emotional. I also hope we get Goodbye Eri. That's another great one shot. Great one shot. Although Look Back is probably my favorite, Goodbye Eri carries a lot of resonance with me. Love it. This was originally published in Shonen Jump Plus in 21. Sold over, or it got over 2.5 million views online in its first day. It sold 900,000 copies in Japan. Pretty good for a one-shot, not something connected to a larger, universe of or ongoing volumes. It's been published in 37 countries, sold more than 750,000 copies internationally. I have a copy. I love it. Have I seen that Live, Die, Repeat is getting an anime movie in 26? No, I didn't see that. Originally a light novel that became a very successful manga, and I do love the live-action Tom Cruise movie. Really, really good. Yeah, Chainsaw Man is very nihilistic, very, very, very dark, which is okay. I like that it's different. I love the art. But Look Back is my favorite thing that Fujimoto-san has made so far. That's it. So I've got another manga story, though. Let's see. Nobody Knows, Shoplifters, and Monster are good starting points for Koreeda. Noted. I've heard of Monster. The others I don't know. I've heard of Monster. All right. So, does anybody, first of all, before I put up some of the text, does anybody recognize this Shonen Jump character? Was turned into a successful anime, was from back in sort of the golden age of Shonen Jump, but curious if anybody recognizes her. Live, Die, Repeat looks pretty dope. Trailer dropped. Oh, I'll have to take a look. Thank you for the update. Hey, good. Somebody knows. Good. Yeah, Video Girl I. Oh, a bunch of people know. Nice. That's nice. Hey. Let me tell you who it is. About the creator. So this it is not Perotu. Yes, it's Aishan. So Masakazu Katsura is known for creating a bunch of different mangas. One of them happens to be Video Girl I. All of his original manuscripts were stolen recently, where you write down the details, show it to the editor, what the story is going to be, so that they can approve it or work with you before you do the thumbnails and the art. But you've got your manuscript. Hey, konbanwa! Dave is actually over there in Japan right now. I hope he brings me back something fun from Japan, if he's my friend. He's released a couple videos, by the way, on the West Coast Avengers channel, along with Jimmy Mafood. He's gone to Sakaido, which is a great art store in Tokyo. Chrissy and I always spend a lot of time there. He's got a video at the Tokyo Art Expo, and I'm sure that he's in the process now of putting together and editing whatever he filmed at the Tokyo Comic-Con. He got to meet Peach Momoko. He got to meet Jim Lee. Really cool. It looks like you had a great time, man. I'm happy for you. Happy to give you a little plug there too. Check out the West Coast Avengers channel for more Manga Quest type stuff. But anyway, I'm going to jump back to this story. So yeah, Katsura-san sensei, I should say, says that all of his original manuscripts were stolen. Yikes. Several pieces are already being bought and sold on Yahoo Auctions Japan. That's much more popular, by the way, over there than eBay. Yahoo Auctions is one of the big ones that they use. They're selling for anywhere between 100,000 to over 1 million yen. Here's ballpark what it translates to in US dollars. A good amount. These are, again, just the manuscripts, not the art, but it's still important because it's a part of manga history. Manga history. According to an interview this week with Daily Shincho, Katsura claims that the manuscripts were stolen during a studio move last October. He gave the movers very specific instructions of how to do everything. Still went missing. All of the manuscripts for Video Girl Eye specifically were stolen, although I will point out the original art remains safe. That's something. That's something. So Katsura says the total value of the manuscripts could be around, and this is in US dollars, could be around $4.8 million because it's all of them for the entire run. That's, just based on what they're going for. So in the interview, Katsura says that he recently learned that one of the Yahoo auction sellers is an antiques dealer that has a relationship with the moving company. So he's contemplating a lawsuit. And I think that that's a good idea because I think that somebody definitely intentionally decided that they could get away with this. Well, that's their mistake, apparently, is that they're selling it like this. I don't know why they thought that they probably thought that they would get away with it because it wasn't like the original art. They probably just like underestimated how valuable it all was. I don't know. Possibly. It would legally be his since he never gave anyone authority to sell it and it was all supposed to be secured. I think he's got a very easy case against the moving company. And that, if they can definitely prove this relationship that he says he's discovered between the auction people and the movers, case closed. Case closed. But that's got to be heartbreaking when, you have like this humongous creative output and a big piece of it just gets stolen. That's got to be heartbreaking. Yes. Where's Detective Conan? Where's Detective Conan? This just struck me as kind of a cool thing. H.P. Lovecraft's cosmic horror story, The Thing on the Doorstep, it's being turned into a comic from Top Cow, an Image. It's going to be a 5-part series, starts coming out February 11th. Writer is Simon Burks, and he previously adapted the H.P. Lovecraft story, The Shadow over Innsmouth. And I will note that that has also been adapted into a very cool manga by Go Tanabe. Art for this one by Willie Roberts. And I think that these guys have done a bunch of work for Antarctic, if I'm recognizing the names correctly. But this is through Image. The story, it gets into cosmic horror and really scary stuff, but it initially starts with the narrator, Daniel, claiming that even though he basically shot his friend Edward, he's saying that he didn't really do it, and he's innocent. And it goes from there. It gets into some creepy stuff with Daniel's wife and her father. Yeah. You're burned out on it. That's fair. That's fair. But, Mignola was inspired by a lot of H.P. Lovecraft stuff. And this is sort of going back to the original well. The story was recently turned into the movie Suitable Flesh, if you remember the trailers for that. Am I remembering right that the girl from Clueless was in that? Was that Suitable Flesh? Or am I thinking of something else? 2023. Oh, no. This one had Heather Graham. That's who it had. Heather Graham. Yeah. That was a very... And it had Barbara Crampton. Oh, man. If you're a horror nerd, you know what I'm talking about. Suitable Flesh. All right, moving on to second to last news story. The Beauty. FX set a premiere date this week for The Beauty. That's based on the originally an Image comic by the same name. This is one of those shows by Ryan Murphy, American Horror Story and all that kind of sleazy stuff that he makes. It's based on the book by Jeremy Hahn and Jason A. Hurley. It's going to premiere 3 episodes all at once on FX on January 21st. And then it goes to Hulu and Disney Plus. I get it. I feel like I get that this is in his wheelhouse, to be honest. Cool. Glad that another person is recommending suitable flesh. And thanks again for being here, Dave. I miss you, man. I hope you're having a great time. Following the premiere, they're going to have a new episode each Wednesday at the same time. And then 2 episodes each for the final 2 weeks. So it's going to go something like 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. They're blasting it out. I don't know. The story is pretty cool, though. It follows 2 FBI agents investigating the world of like supermodels and high fashion. And there's an STD out there. If you get it, it turns you into like the most beautiful, physically perfect person you can be. But there's like some really weird, tragic consequences to all of it. And there's more to this, like a conspiracy behind it and all. Hey, thank you for the super chat here. Larry says, Chris, I recently found a black He-Man figure I've never heard of before, assuming it was a modern character, Sunman. I read the back and it's definitely old. With magic, no, this can't be real. With magical melanin skin, he brings the light shining brighter. I gotta look this. I'm not a GI. I am a GI Joe fan and expert. I am not a He-Man expert. Sunman. Oh yeah. Oh wow. It says that he was one of the first sort of black superhero toys that was made. Huh. And it was created by Ela Eason. She was trying to design an action figure that let her son see himself in an action figure. So that's interesting. Sunman. I've never heard of Sunman. Wow. All right. Well, you taught me something new. Very 80s. I'll just wrap up this story. The comic is currently on store shelves. It's being re-released through Ignition Press. That's one of the a new comic book publisher that's co-founded by Jeremy Hahn. So it makes sense that, as a creator-owned thing, that's now coming out through Ignition Press. I think only the first issue has been re-released. It might be up to 2, but I think it's just 1. And it makes sense since they've got the movie coming out. Last piece of news I have is just a little bit of follow-up on Angouleme, the comics festival. So last week we learned it's officially been canceled. So this week, the fallout is all sorts of people blaming each other for that. The event organizer, 9E Art Plus, not great people it seems like, has accused the government of, quote, sabotaging the event by pulling public funds. So they're saying it's the government's fault. The mayor of the town, Xavier Bonifant, he's blamed the show owner, not the event organizer, but the event owner for doing such a bad job with it. And a town council member, Vincent Yu, has accused Bonifant of not managing things well because it's going to really hurt the town not having this huge event. And he's announced that he's going to run for mayor. So now we've got mayors running against each other over a canceled comic book convention. The website LaCroix says that comics publishers who are now united in a union called Syndicat National de l'Édition, I don't know. I've never learned any French. They're supporting the idea of a 2027 event for Angouleme and calling it a reboot and a return. Yeah, there's definitely blame all the way around. It's a again, this is a very technical term. Shit show. It's a shit show. Well, it's funny that you say that. There are some Christian comics makers, and they announced that they're going to put on a smaller convention in its place for like their Christian comics. We'll see how well that does. We'll see. Another super chat. I'm rich. It's awesome. The description on Sunman is insane. With magical melanin skin, Sunman brings the light shining brighter on all the worlds when all good people unite. And he's from Rulers of the Sun. Sounds like it was a nice intention to, like create more black superheroes. So I get that. Yes. It's not going well for Angouleme. I have one thing to recommend this week for upcoming indie stuff that I'm interested in. Frostbitten. Now, that is a 48-page one-shot horror comic. It's set in very remote northern Canada. If you've ever enjoyed something like 30 Days of Night, it's not the same sort of story, but maybe the same tone of like people in remote, dark, cold areas with something very scary going on. One day, Comic Tropes, the Comic-Con, I do not have the bandwidth to run my own event. But if any, especially international conventions, want to invite me to a panel, I'd be happy to accept that. Oh, I understand. Yeah, no, but this is supposed to be a small town. That's an important part of it. So we've got that, and this is an upcoming Kickstarter. So there's the link, but you could also just type in Frostbitten as 2 words and just filter it by upcoming. And that's going to be coming out pretty soon. I think it looks good. If I'm alive in 2037, then yes. I just wanted to share that. I think it looks cool. I hope people consider just going there and hitting, notify me when it launches so that you can learn more about it. And with that said, I think it's time to pivot into doing some comic book reviews. The next segment of the show, yes? Who's down for comic book reviews? We are. That's great. Wow. I can't believe that. The whole audience. Let's do it.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
Not nearly enough time this time. I'm still setting it up. I thought that I'd have enough time. Here. Bear with me as I still set things up. I was having trouble with the connection. I give myself that little bumper to have enough time, and then it doesn't always work. We've got some interesting books to talk about this week. You know what I just realized I never did? I never showed the ticker. I'll put it up now just so that you can know what we've already talked about and what we've got coming up. I meant to have that earlier. It's new to me. I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. Let's start with just regular old Batman. And let me fiddle with this just a little bit more. How sharp is that? That's pretty sharp. Yeah, that's a little better. All right. So I've been enjoying this book. This is Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. And they've introduced a new villain called the Minotaur, who's a very modern villain. What does he do? He basically runs a bank for all the different organized crime in Gotham and has them working together. We've got subplots of Bruce Wayne getting to know Dr. Annika Zeller. She works, for, what do you call it? Works for Wayne Enterprises in like science, trying to create rehabilitation methods for all their crazy criminals. But she's definitely the new love interest, I mean, look, I work out, but I'm so clumsy. Thank goodness you caught me, Bruce. I will say that Jorge Jimenez definitely draws her very cute. She's very appealing. She's a little bit of that trope of a clumsy nerd that's actually secretly beautiful. I think she's definitely the new love interest. I guess they could surprise me and turn her into a villain, but I don't think so. I like that. There's interesting subplots. I won't get into that. But one thing I've been enjoying as a recurring motif in this is the attention to turning Gotham into like a very believable lived-in place. In this we see different sections: Little Tokyo, Alleytown, Wolf Hill, the Bowery. And I like that there's so much attention to detail by Jorge Jimenez in this. It really makes it look like Gotham is a giant city full of different boroughs, which reminds me of big cities like LA, Chicago, New York, Tokyo, etc. But it makes it look more dynamic and lived in and believable. It's just like one page here where we've got sort of a subplot going on, but they keep doing that. Anytime we're establishing a scene, we're getting just a little hint of the environment. Lower Gotham, for like, they call it Paper Row, where the newspaper business is. Okay, yeah, that's sort of the big modern Art Deco type buildings. We've got Harbor View, which is even more modern. That's where the Wayne Experimental Sciences are. I like it. But what I like most in this issue is that Minotaur establishes himself as a legit good threat. And that's hard when you've been doing a serialized superhero story for this long, and you've got some classic villains. How do you come up with one that is unique and interesting, but also a threat? I'll be honest, I think that the last new Batman villain that I found interesting and believable might be all the way back to Bane. And that's going back quite a ways. If I'm talking just the regular Batman title, there have been good stories with some new villains and some existing villains. But as far as like a new threat, it's been a while since I've seen one where I believed in them approaching things differently. And what I like about Minotaur is, you'd think that he'd be in a subservient role as the banker for all of these organized crime families. We've got Yakuza, we've got Mafia, we've got Penguin. But one of them is like possibly betrayed the others and like tried to do something shifty. They don't know who. But what Minotaur says is, if one of us bleeds, all of us bleed. We all have to like face the consequences of things together. So he has all of the crime families kidnapped, and he has his men kill them. Like, no bargaining, no, like, you tell me who did it. Just says, excuse me. Court of Owls was a good new creation. And Professor Pig isn't bad. I'm sorry, folks. I legit forgot for a minute. Those are both good examples. Those are both good examples of interesting new villains. Those are. And that's just a piece of it. Now, this guy does have 7 fingers, and he controls 7 crime families. So, I mean, he's obviously created it based on his physical imperfection. And I have seen people that are born with 6 fingers. In the books, Hannibal Lecter famously has 6 fingers. But, 7 fingers. It's an interesting challenge, isn't it, to sort of draw that and have it be believable and plausible. But I think that Jorge Jimenez has done that. I don't know that I absolutely love the mask, but it isn't bad at all. It's intriguing. It's different. You know, he's basically just a guy in a suit that's wearing a mask, and I just like that he's simply masked. I like that he has a unique character. We'll call it a deformity for lack of a better term. Just because it makes him stand out. You know, a lot of the Bond villains would always have some sort of defect or personality trait or something. Yeah, the Penguin he's like, my beautiful Lola. Well, whoever she was, dead now. The Minotaur, just because he's going to keep them all in order. He's ruthlessly keeping all of organized crime in order. And he's like, guess what? Doesn't matter who did what. If one of us gets hurt, we all get hurt. The end. Ooh, okay. Okay. Whatever it is, for now, it's working. And basically it implies, along with Vandal Savage, who is the, what is he, the commissioner now? The commissioner of police? Gotham's totally corrupt, okay? And Minotaur is getting into not just every illegal business, he's getting into every legitimate business as well. And they're keeping Batman busy by just having the regular street crime levels go up. They're controlling all the sort of freaks, you know, all the Two-Faces and Riddlers and stuff. They've got them off the board for now. They're organized all together, like as organized crime. They're all working together. So basically, look, it's creating a new version of the Kingpin, if I use the Daredevil version, but in Batman. So he's a little heightened, but I like it. I liked it quite a bit. He was really an early version of OpenAI. That's how he got the extra fingers. What did the 7 fingers say to the face? Slap. Anyway, I like it. I like it. It's moving at a good pace. It's got nice, what would I say, flavor to it, because great, we've got some Batman action, we've got some interesting villains, but you're going to get a couple pages of subplots with romance. You're going to get a couple subplots of supporting characters in Gotham so that we can see sort of man on the street and how they're dealing with things. And we've got just what I'm calling flavor is how they're representing the city and making Gotham feel like a real living, breathing entity. I like that. I like that quite a bit. I wouldn't necessarily call this exceptional yet, but I think it's setting itself up for a lot of success. And I love the art. I think that Jorge Jimenez is a really, really top tier artist in DC's employ these days. I hope we don't get a fill-in issue anytime soon, because I'm really enjoying Jorge's attention. Great White Shark had a fantastic origin story. I loved Dan Slott's story. What was it? Like something Arkham. I don't remember now. The Hell of Arkham, Arkham in Hell, something close to that. I can't even remember the title of that miniseries. It's kind of old now. But I liked his origin, but I never found Great White Shark to be that interesting of an ongoing villain. I think that Fraction's doing really good work and reminding me why I usually like Matt Fraction's work a lot. I usually really connect. Did Fraction or Zdarsky write that future set Avengers story earlier this year? It was probably Zdarsky, wasn't it? And I'm confusing it because Zdarsky just did that Batman run. Avengers Twilight. That was Zdarsky and Daniel Acuna. That was really good. I might do an episode about that someday if you haven't read Avengers Twilight. Sorry. Moving on to the next book. Did I have Knightfight as second? I had an order to all of this. I guess I'll do this next just because I've got it here. I always thought of Prometheus as a little bit more of a Justice League of America villain. And I loved the first appearance. Didn't really like any of the subsequent ones that much. Dr. Hurt, your mileage may vary. I don't dislike it, but didn't excite me either. There's some really strong graphic design in this. Yeah, I like Batman's new suit. I like the new logo. I like it quite a bit. Knightfight, I'm sort of two minds of this book. I don't think I could really give it a full-throated endorsement, to be honest. It almost feels like they wanted to do something unexpected with DCKO by not having Batman in it. But you got to have Batman doing something, so we'll keep him busy with this. If that makes sense. Now, I do really like the art by Dan Mora, and I'll have some things to say about what I specifically like about this. And I don't think it's a bad story. I really don't. I just do feel like it isn't quite necessary. The premise interested me more than the execution. And the premise is that Batman basically is in a future version of Gotham where all his Robins from, Jason Todd to Dick Grayson have grown up and become Batman, and he's fighting them. But it's probably in some sort of artificial imaginary world, I think. So I don't know that I really care too much about the consequences. I don't feel the stakes. I don't understand the stakes other than Batman's well-being. If that's what yeah. But I don't think like the dialogue is bad. I don't think that the pacing is bad. my throat broke. Hold on. Excuse me. That was weird. So it's not a bad book. It's just, it doesn't quite feel necessary to me yet, and I don't feel the stakes too much yet. Thank you, Rami. Jorge is adapting his art to the story, and I feel that the coloring is also distinguishing it from other runs. Let's double check who did the coloring in this, because I do agree that it looks good, especially when I've let's see. Oh, DeMeo Mori. Yeah. It's good. It's very good. But this one, I do like the art, though. I like the art a lot. And one thing that's really cool in this is it transitions sort of from one world where Batman is dealing with Dick Grayson in the future, and the world is presented as just, like rainy, maybe arguably a little neon inspired. We see lights from little cyberpunk, not quite, but a little bit. It's got a visual style, though, right? It's got a little bit of a visual style, and I'm also going to give the colorist some props on this. The colorist on this one is... Well, Dan Mora is the only credited artist. Oh, that's interesting. Well, then I give even more credit to Dan Mora, folks, for this art. So, okay, so we've got, the one sort of story where he's going up against Dick Grayson. And like I say, we've got some neon colors. Now there's it transitions at a certain point, and we get a story with Jason Todd. And now we're dealing with black, white, gray, and reds. You can certainly say, okay, line art the same, pacing and presentation the same, but there's definitely a different vibe, isn't there? From like these big 2-page spreads with the neon to these more intimate, up close black, white, and red pages. So I really, sorry, Nad. I like that. I like the tonal shift within this art-wise. It did make me think about what it was trying to say about Batman's relationship with each of these characters. To give Joshua Williamson some credit with the writing, I do think that he's using his Batman's Robins as an interesting contrast to show who he is. Is he more trusting? Is he too trusting? Does he have more mercy? He's got different elements that really resonate, and we get to see in some ways, how Batman is a hero. But if he isn't actively sort of protecting innocent people from some sort of a crime, I feel like the stakes aren't there. It's just too intimate. Doesn't quite hit. DC wringing our boy Mora out like an old rag, getting every single drop of art out of him. But look at that. That's really striking. How does Dan Mora do Transformers and Batman and other stuff and color his own book? He does a lot of it digitally. He said that before that it depends on how much time he has as to how he'll do his work. If he has more time, he uses more traditional methods. If he has shorter time, he transitions to doing it a lot of it digitally, but he likes to have the actual physical artwork whenever possible. Oh, excuse me. This is Triona Farrell is the colorist? Is she just, did I not read the credits right? That would help make sense because Dan Moore is doing a lot right now. I am so sorry. Thank you, ChemDog, for pointing out my mistake. There is a credited colorist, Triona Farrell. And I'll still say that, like, you know, Dan Mora did a lot great, but I really admire what the colors do for sort of setting these two sections of the story apart. Like, that's very dramatic. And that's really just colors, because the line art is not radically different. It's the same amount of like shadows, a similar line weight. Yeah, there's a lot going on here art-wise that really impresses me. So story-wise, the execution just isn't hitting me a whole lot. But for 4 issues, I'm going to go ahead and finish it up because I'm enjoying the art and I like the ideas of it. I've seen other stuff by Joshua Williamson that I like a lot more. I'll just say this week, Dreadnought War of G.I. Joe was one of them. I love this. This is fantastic. This isn't bad. It's just not quite hitting what I have in my own head. And it needs to like sort of surprise me a little bit more. High effort, low stakes. Maybe there's a lot of effort going on, and I admire that. I do admire that. I think he's probably the next issue, probably. I'll keep going because there's a bunch of comics that I did pick up this week, and I'm excited to talk about. You know, it's December. I want to talk about this guy. Peach Momoko surprised me with Ultimate X-Men 22. It's got a confrontation between Shadow King and Armor, as well as some of the other X-Men. But I really shouldn't show how it ends. Let's just say it totally shocked me. It does some really creepy stuff and some violent stuff. There's some really lovely panels here and there that really show a lot of emotion. And I just also love Peach's coloring. We were talking about colors with the last issue. It's really cool what Peach does. This also takes place like literally in the same month as it actually is. So we get a scene where some of the supporting characters of the book are meeting. It's Christmas time, and what are they doing? They're eating fried chicken. From what? Obviously, you know, a bucket with what seem to be white and red stripes. Now we've got like, you know, just a chicken mascot, but that's because we can't use who it really is. There's always these lexicons in the back that explain any sort of cultural things. And it talks about how, from Peach's perspective, how they get fried chicken in Japan is just a traditional thing. You order it ahead of time at its KFC. Okay. Everybody orders KFC for Christmas time, along with you get like the fried chicken, and you'll usually get a cake. They do either like chocolate or strawberry shortcake cakes. And that's just a tradition. KFC totally took over how popular certain meals are during Christmas time in Japan. But I like that they address that. I like it. It's real. If you've been to Japan, you know that you're going to see KFC ads everywhere right now. Oh, excuse me. So I'll say that I like the art, and there's an incredibly violent story twist with this that I don't want to show you that surprised me. I don't think I've heard of the Colonel Sanders Curse. No, I don't. That doesn't sound. Oh, just to be clear, a lot of people think that the KFC is also like mediocre. It's just a tradition, and because it's not like something that everybody orders except for Christmas, they're like, yeah, it's pretty good, because if you don't have it all the time, it does taste better. I'll have to look up the Sanders Curse. Thank you. I will talk about Ultimates 2 years in. I will. Tell you what, I do recommend it. I'm excited to see, only 2 more issues to go. I'm excited to see where this goes, because there's something in this that makes it feel almost complete. So I think we're, in a way, getting like 2 issues that are more of a denouement than a climax. So let's talk about a really fun Christmas comic that Image put out this week. But before I review it in detail, I do think I need to do a disclaimer here. This is a book by people that I would consider really good friends. The artist is a guy that I know in person, lives here. My friend Chuck is the artist of 3 of the stories, including the main one. So he's my buddy, and that biases me. And I do consider the writer, Benito, he wrote all these stories. I consider him a friend too. I've known them both a really long time. Like over 20 years. So I'm biased, okay? I'm biased. Do I like it? Yes, I do. More like frenemies. This gives us a bunch of adventures with Santa and a bunch of lore around him, and your enjoyment may be tied into how much you like Christmas stories. It may be tied into how much you appreciate Nordic and Slavic lore, because Benito rolls in a lot of different types of mythology and even some pretty complex German type names and Bavarian type names for some of these monsters and creatures. And maybe that would overwhelm you. I don't know. I like it. I love digging into all sorts of folklore. It's one of the reasons why I like something like Hellboy. Hellboy digs into real lore and then does its own thing with it. Well, this does too. And even though this looks kind of cute and stuff here, it also has some pretty great monsters and adventures. Let me see if I can find a good example of that. Look at this cool owl monster. The Tutosel. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Tutosel. I doubt many people know what that is. Oh, you know what I love in this? There's a there's a hunter, the huntsman, and I love this design. Look at this guy. Look at this guy with the black eyes and just some blue energy or blue flames sort of emanating from his eyes, and his steed's eyes and his crossbow. I think that's a fantastic design. I love that. So I love it. And then there's a bunch of sort of side stories. Some of them are also by CK. This one's a cute one about the baker's dozen. There's some stories in here by guys like, if you've ever read Nedroid, this is Anthony Clark does a story. Bertato. So that's fun. We've got Doc Shaner does a story in here. Where's Doc Shaner's story? Doc Shaner, Age of Bronze, right? Really cool, a very different style. Very different style. That's okay though, because story-wise, it's all got clever dialogue. It's pretty funny stuff. I'll say that. It's pretty funny. I strongly recommend it. If your store hasn't ordered it, they probably still can. A couple of these stories have been published digitally in past years. Benito and CK have done some of these stories in the past and shared them to their private, newsletters and stuff. But most of us haven't seen this stuff before. It's definitely the first time in print. Just some great, great stories. Puts me in the Christmas spirit. I like the idea of Santa as sort of an adventurer and a hero. He's not the muscle-bound woodsman of Claus that I recently reviewed by Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. But he is still a powerful figure that understands the different creatures and different magic lore and stuff. Yeah. Oh, you redrew them. Okay, I don't think I knew. Sorry. I didn't put them together side by side to compare. That's interesting. There's Krampus makes, yes. Age of Bronze is Eric Shanwer. You're right. I'm sorry. I did just mess that up. Doc Shaner. What am I? All right. I'm so bad at this stuff. What does Doc Shaner do? Doc Shaner recently did the Shazam run that I really liked. That was cool. And he did Strange Adventures with Tom King. That was badass. Sorry I said Age of Bronze. I don't know how I did that. Claus is so fun. Claus is a blast. But this is too. And I think that the art style is definitely something that I don't think we get to see in comics enough. I think that you maybe could argue that you've seen this in things close to this, maybe in certain games. I think that there are some, like a few indie games that might do like, line holds instead of doing like, a black outline on everything, and do like sort of more shape-based art. I think that you could say that there might be some children's books out there that might do something a little similar. I can't think of an exact one-to-one, but I feel like it's new enough that I haven't seen it in comics before. And I love the designs of some of these creatures. Like I said, my favorite out of the whole book was this huntsman. I love that design. He just really interests me, and I'd want to see more with him. The only thing that I think that would be intimidating is reading some of the German names, and so your mileage may vary there. Yeah, animated, very animated. And I think that like helps to give like the story just this like propulsive energy, like it's moving forward, because Benito's a little bit of a wordy guy. Now he's very funny. He's got like characters like all have very distinct personalities. They speak in clever ways, but I think that having an art style that's so energetic helps move it forward at a really good pace. So I think it's a good collaboration. I love it. There's a couple different covers out there, by the way, but it's called Startling Tales of Santa Claus, and it is thick, just to be clear. Like, this has got a bunch of stories in it. How many specifically? Is it 6 or more? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. 6 stories. And then there's even a little bit of back matter here with designs by some of the different artists, as well as written stories about the making of this and various Christmas lore. So there's even some back matter. It's a good value. 80. Yeah. Okay. I didn't count it up. 80 pages, $10. That's pretty good, folks. Cause usually we get what, 22 pages for $5. So this is like 4 times that almost. It's good value. It's a good value. Anyway, that was a fun one to read. I wish I had more to say, but I like it, and I'm so close that it's really hard for me to think in a negative way about it. I'm primed to like this. Okay, I'm primed to like this. I think that the creators have done something very fun, and it helps put me in the mood. I like Christmas. I like the lights. I like the music. I'm one of those guys that can listen to it any time of the year, but as soon as Thanksgiving's over, I am totally fine with people playing Christmas music. I like the decorations. I like the food and the snacks and the treats, and I like family time. And I think that people just generally try to be a little kinder and nicer when they're surrounded by that stuff. So learning some of the history and lore that have been created over the years that are related to Santa really makes me feel happy too. Nostalgic in a way where it's like I'm still learning something new. It's a feeling of nostalgia, but I'm still like getting something new out of it. That's an interesting way to talk about it. Cozy comics. There is something a little cozy about it. It's an annual, so look out for more in future years. I would love that. This would be so... Hey, my dream would be that people get into this enough that it makes sense to do like semi-annual or quarterly specials that could either be themed to the nearest holiday or even tell like Christmas stories during off periods of the year. That would be wild. What's this? Looks more like Klaus the Netflix movie to me, which I saw on the big screen for Regal's Monday mystery movie. Beautiful animation that deserves to be seen. That is fair, if that's what you get out of it. But I will point out that, like I said, some of these stories were made quite a while in the past. Let me see. I want to say like 2016 might have been when they started making some of these. No, it's even older than that. Excuse me. Benito talks about how he pitched some of these back before even 2010, like just around 2005 or 6. And some of the stuff that was unfinished by guys like James Herron, that maybe we'll get to see someday down the road. So he's got a lot more ideas. He's got obviously a good collaborator with CK here. Yeah, a lot of history, a lot of history. I would enjoy talking a little bit about Something is Killing the Children. Issue 45 already. This is a book that I really like, but I also find slightly frustrating. But it's not really a negative. It's just that I think that this book must read better as a trade. It really is decompressed storytelling. You get a good amount. I feel like I get a good amount of story in each issue. And I like artist Werther Dell'Edera. I don't think when I look at this that this is like any other comic book artist really out there, doing their own thing. I'm getting a new enough story because this one's set in a very wintry, remote area. I like that, especially for this season. It's just lining up well. This is issue like 5 of this storyline. But I also feel that the storyline, it's very deliberately paced. And this is one part of maybe like a 6 or so part story. And I find that a little frustrating sometimes because I want more. And I know that if I read this as a trade, well, if you're reading it as it comes out, that's a bit of a wait. I'd rather read it monthly and get something. But I almost am jealous of somebody that gets to discover it after it's been out for a few years and can really binge on it, because I think it reads very well binging. I kind of bailed on the spinoff because it was just not fast enough for me. It wasn't bad, but it must read better as a trade. This is a story about, a monster hunter, and we've gotten a lot in both the spinoff and previous chapters about the main character, Erica, and her past. And I like that, but I almost wish some of this past stuff could be mixed in as flashbacks and subplots, and we could also see her in the modern day. Because this is very relevant to helping me understand who she is as a character, but I also know that she still is doing adventures in the modern day. So I'd love to see a little bit more of a balance, like a flashing back and forward personally. That would work for me. But I like the artwork a lot. It's just because I don't see anything else quite like this. And it reads to me very clearly. I think it's dynamic and dramatic. I like it. Yes, but I think that there are some comics that give you a lot more story per page, and they're jamming in a few more panels and some more dialogue. It all depends on the tone you need for that story. So I don't think it's wrong the way they're doing it, just to be clear. This is a horror book, and you need to deliberately pace it. If you do it like really fast, nothing but action and lots of dialogue and stuff, you're not going to build up the tension. You're not going to be able to build up the tension. This does build tension the way it's paced. So that's very deliberate, and it needs to work that way. But yeah, I just think it would be more satisfying to read a huge version of this story as a trade paperback. And there's been a lot of flashback stuff, a lot. I need to read Monstrous. I have the first trade, but I need to read that. Oh my goodness. I just got a text that I'm from a friend showing me their kid watching this show. That's very flattering. That's very flattering. I hope I'm doing a good enough job, and I'll try to cut down on all the swearing. It's getting pretty bad. I think I can do sort of mini reviews for the rest. This is my favorite issue of Orphan and the Five Beasts that's come out yet. James Stokoe does everything in this. I love how this is so what would be the word when one person has the vision? I guess I'm visionary to a degree. I don't know. I love how personal it is, but this is like, the writing, the art, the colors, the letters, it's all James Stokoe. And it gives you cool, over-the-top kung fu action with all sorts of weird supernatural stuff, but it gives you some other stuff too. Oh, wow. Look at that. Just a personal gift for the work you do for comics, waiting for the Christmas episode soon. That's what I'm working on this week, doing a weird Christmas thing. A singular vision, auteur, two people say. I think that's very fair. Very fair. This issue gives us the backstory of a character that we've seen now, and we realize she's one of the five beasts. And oh my God, what a crazy, tragic story it becomes, which makes me care more. It's just the perfect time to do it. Issue 3, if I got this from the beginning, it wouldn't have the same impact. I've gotten to care about this character, and now I find out she's got all this huge backstory to her that makes me much more invested, where, of course, I think the hero is likely to win, but what will that mean for who's sort of the enemy here and her tragic past? I also think the artwork is creepy and intricate and unlike anything else you really see out there. Energy-wise, yeah, I could compare it to some modern artists that use like manga influence, but Stokoe also has a bit of an indie flair that reminds me of like, 90s Dark Horse comics and Mirage comics in the 80s. Some of that. Oh my God. Here, I'll just show you one thing. So this character has the ability to sort of like, tense all the muscles, take a blow, and then reverberate it back at like tenfold. So here's a guy punching her, and you see all the like skin and muscles start to rip across the arm, and then just explodes the character outwards with the brain exploding out of the back of the head, the skin exploding off the front of the head, the character just being completely eviscerated. And that is totally some Fist of the North Star, over the top, manga style kung fu battling. It's for me. It's for me. Is it over the top? I love that it's over the top. If it wasn't over the top, I'd be grossed out. But because it's so silly, I can deal with it. Yeah, I could see a tiny bit of that too. Sure. It's an everything goes, like just very, very personal. Like auteur was such a good word for it. Yeah. An auteur take on the material. And yeah, it's been my favorite issue of the series so far. Orphan and the Five Beasts, Bath of Blood. Really, really cool. Really, really cool. Ultimate Universe 2 years in was good. It's by Dennis Camp and a series of artists telling individual stories of the Guardians of the Galaxy, a future superhero team traveling through time to gather their hundreds of members who have been scattered across the universe in the goal of reuniting as many of them as they can to face the Maker. Okay, so that's the goal. And we get lots of individual stories on all sorts of weirdos that riff on a mashup of Marvel ideas. The more of Marvel you know, the more you're going to find some really clever links here. There's a team member that's called U-82, a future version of Ultron that's a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And he opts to stay in the past, observing ancient humanity to see when evil infected it. There's stories about what happened to their version of Nova on an alien world. All sorts of weirdos. I like this one the most, probably. Daredevil. Totally surreal, right? Daredevil as a cosmic character? Yeah, it's because he's kind of the Beyonder. And he has an ability to sort of break the fourth wall, and like he's literally using the gutter to like swing on and attack people. Really crazy ideas. So cool. See, he's fighting because he can observe everything, and he's just to the point of view of the Guardians, Daredevil would be blinking in and out of existence. But from his point of view, he's envisioning it like it's a comic book, and he's just jumping through the panels, doing whatever he needs to do. Very cool ideas. Very cool ideas. And when you think about it, U-82 is the Ultron that's just set himself as an observer. What does that sound like? U-82, Uatu, the Watcher. There's clever little links like that for just no reason other than it's fun. But story-wise, it still would make sense, even if you don't know all those links, because it's about assembling a team. And assembling a team is always interesting. It's just a simple narrative conceit that works. Some really great art styles. While I really like that Alex Packnadel Daredevil story, I also like the bridging stories by Phil Noto. Great artist. Lots of good art. Dennis Camp gives us something different and interesting. So weird that they decided to use Daredevil, but I kind of love that anything goes at this point, especially with the Ultimate Universe almost over. It's like, yeah, just use whatever you want, because we're not trying to be precious and like, oh, don't touch that. We might do something big with it later. That could be an event. Like, don't touch those characters. No, we're going to do whatever we want. Thank you. I appreciate compliments like that. That means a lot. I'm having a good time talking to all of you about comics. I love comics. G.I. Joe. You know what's cool about this to me, as somebody that also gets the action figures? It took me a while to sort of realize, but when they introduce characters in this book, they are using the designs from the G.I. Joe classified action figures that they do. In this, they introduce a version of Road Pig. Now, originally as a the original comics and the action figures, Road Pig was a dreadnought. In this, he's just sort of like a guy more like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre that lives out on his own, and he befriends the dreadnoughts. But one really cool thing in this is we get a scene where Duke from G.I. Joe and Cobra Commander are chained up together, and they're in the dark, so we don't get to see everything, but they have a conversation, and we see that Cobra Commander has been horribly mutated at some point in the past. And Duke is like asking him, he's like, "Are you human?" He's like, "I do not wish to be." So this Cobra Commander is human, but he doesn't want to be. That's why he's been investigating Energon and how it connects to the Transformers and everything. We get some cool redesigns of some of these characters, like this version of Buzzer from the Dreadnoks has replaced his hand with a chainsaw instead of carrying a chainsaw around. Great art by this is Tom Riley. Great art. Great art. Love it. So much fun. So much fun. Do G.I. Joes acknowledge that they, I mean American military, destabilized the Middle East? No, they don't talk about that at all. That would be depressing. This is an adventure sci-fi comic of like more of like a spy type of team that's meant to investigate robots and terrorists. It does not get that real. Now the main G.I. Joe title talks about some of that stuff here and there, actually. Those, and I say main as in the ongoing one that goes back to 1982 that's still being written by Larry Hama. They'll talk about that. They'll use fictional countries, but they'll definitely accuse like people in the government and in the military of destabilizing certain areas and roll that in. No, but this version is more, it's just not that kind of a book. It's made up of a bunch of Americans, but it isn't all Americans, actually. It's just funded, I guess, by us. It's not really it doesn't go into too much detail. Yeah, this version of Cobra Commander is more of a mad scientist. He's got a mysterious past. He's worked with Cobra Law. He's got he's replaced his arm with a mechanical one. Yeah. Larry Hama is the kind of guy that would use a pun name for stand-ins. And that's okay though, because he's still addressing real issues. And anyway, but this is fun and great art. Tom Riley is really giving it his all with this stuff. I mean, because just look at that, punching a guy with a big fat belly and seeing how that's starting to react. You could see it jiggle, but it doesn't move him because he's just too big. I was like, that's really cool, actually. That's not that easy to draw and make it look believable. I like seeing art that shows the reaction to an action as compared to, say, about in the process of starting to throw a punch. I want to see the moment just after impact. That's more exciting. Those are big decisions that an artist has to make. But I think that the moment where somebody's reacting to something is more interesting than the beginning of an action. The reaction versus the action. You can't always, but yeah. You can see it jiggle. Yes, it's hypnotic, like a lava lamp. I don't know if you ever saw the old Simpsons at this point where Mulder and Scully visited, and Scully has Homer jogging on a treadmill, and Mulder's like, Scully, what's the point of this experiment? She goes, no point. I just thought he could stand to lose some weight. And Mulder and Scully are like, it's hypnotic, like a lava lamp, as he just jiggles. Oh man, I've become one of those guys. And then in Simpsons, they did this. Remember this joke? By the way, I recommend this every time it comes out, but Ryan North is crushing it on Fantastic Four. Looks like this is actually going to be a multi-part story. Primarily, he does one-shot sci-fi ideas. This one's going to be a little bigger, but it gets to talking about how powerful Invisible Woman kind of is. At this point, yeah, her force fields are powerful, invisibility is powerful, but even more powerful, she fakes out some alien invaders by saying that she can change the rotation of Earth and stuff like that. And she makes it look like it's gone from day to night, etc. But all she's doing is actually changing. She can bend light, so she can make all sorts of illusions and stuff. And that's insanely powerful when you think about it. Now, the big change to this is that Mariah Hill visits them, and she pitches that S.H.I.E.L.D. gets put back together, but not as a spy organization, instead as an intelligence service for the Future Foundation. That's a big thing for the Fantastic Four to think about, because S.H.I.E.L.D. has done a lot of good in the past, but they've also frequently been, corrupted or abused, and it would definitely change a little bit of their mission. So, yeah. If Invisible Woman wanted to be a supervillain, be Malice, she could literally turn off the sunlight and the planet would start to freeze. She could do that. She could make that invisible. That's very dangerous. So we're getting into like the fact that these are really dangerous people, but the people from S.H.I.E.L.D. want to proactively work with them. And I don't know what the ultimate good idea out of that would be. It's something to think about. I'm not really trusting her that much either, really. S.H.I.E.L.D. gets put back together as a bakery. I like Humberto Ramos on this. I think he's a good fit right now. I think he's a good fit. So anyway, I'll just doodle around on something I've been drawing, and we can all chat about other stuff. What else did I want to talk about? Let me think for a second, because I had some other ideas. I'm thinking, sorry. Oh, a friend of mine let me get onto their family account for Apple Plus TV. And so Chrissy and I have been able to watch a couple of the shows on there lately. We like Pluribus by, is it Vince Gilligan? The guy that did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, X-Files, to bring that up again. It's so good. It's kind of funny, but it's like also kind of like a what would you call it? Like a Twilight Zone that's like a multi-episode sort of idea. It's really big and ambitious, and it goes into just some crazy sci-fi ideas. I love it. It's really good. Just my opinion, but I like it a lot. Watch out for the life model decoys. Yes. Oh, okay. A bunch of people agreeing. Yeah. At first I was like, how, what do you do with this big premise? It seems too big, but you actually address all the implications, and it's really cool. It's really cool. Fraggle Rock. Chrissy likes Fraggle Rock, but I never saw it because I didn't have cable as a kid, so I don't know Fraggle Rock super well. I mean, I'm aware of it, but I don't really know it. I'll let Chrissy know that that's on there. Love the show. Will there be a new trash movie bonanza? There absolutely will. So, in fact, I bet we'll do a Christmas episode. You know, if you pay attention to this show, you may know that my co-host Jimmy Mafood, has been in Japan for like a month. He's taking like a bit of a break. He tabled at the Tokyo Comic-Con, hung out with his friend Peach. He's doing a chapter in her next Marvel book, Sai. And so he's just been on, an extended trip, but we have talked about some ideas of what we want to do next. And I think we'll do some sort of like a Christmas horror thing. There's a couple ideas we've thrown back and forth. So once he gets home, he's still not home, but we'll do one this month, I think. And I've got a lot of ideas personally for episodes I want to do on it. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Didn't MST3K already do that one though? But I doubt I'm getting any goodies from either Jim or Dave, but that's okay. I'm glad that they're having a good time. I don't think I've seen that one, no. What if I just chose something that's legitimately good? What if trash movie bonanza we do It's a Wonderful Life? Mary, they're making fun of me, Mary. Good Lord. Isn't it just a reprint? Isn't that new Criminal comic just a reprint? I didn't pick it up because I thought it was a reprint. By the way, so yeah, anyway, we will do a trash movie bonanza this month. That's definitely going to happen. And if you didn't see it for any reason, there is a new Comic Tropes episode up this week, only a couple days old. I put up one about a weird Golden Age character called the Phantom of the Fair. I got a huge kick out of it. I hope you all do. It's a very specific area of responsibility this superhero decided to take on for himself. So that's sort of the conceit of everything. If I can make an honest recommendation, A Blast of Silence is a solid neo-noir. Sean Phillips did the cover art for the Criterion release. He does some great movie covers. What exhibit at the World's Fair would you have Phantom Protect, I think you're asking? Definitely Electro, the robot, the smoking robot. Westinghouse created a robot called Electro, I believe with a K, Electro, and his dog Sparky or Sparks. And Electro's big thing was that he smoked cigarettes, which is such a 1939 idea. We did it. We created a robot and he smokes cigarettes. What else does he do? Nothing. He stands like on a thing that we can move back and forth and we can have him like repeat recorded phrases. Basically, he smokes a cigarette if you put it in his mouth for him. Great. That's something America needs. That really... that is something I have started to say on a lot of my Golden Age reviews. Blank blank beats the shit out of the bad guys. That is just what they do. You had a monkey toy that smoked? Boy. So classy. So classy. Well done, Westinghouse. You've added to America's cultural superiority. Anyway, well, I hope you guys check it out. Next, I'm going to do just a silly look at a Christmas TV thing from abroad, and I will be putting up on Patreon. I think I can either do it tonight or tomorrow. The next poll. So if you're at either the $2 or above tiers on Patreon, you'll have access to vote on the next exclusive episode, because I always make one exclusive, low lift edit episode for my Patreon supporters. And I'm going to give them some options on some classic Christmas comics, some really good Christmas stories. And they'll choose one, and I'll discuss what that story was and any cultural impact, etc. But yeah, so appreciate it. For less than the cost of a single comic a month, you can support this show, the Comic Tropes show, and get an exclusive episode out of it too. So that's cool. I'm leaning towards asking if Jim would do Elves. Elves is a weird Christmas movie starring Dan Haggerty, better known as Grizzly Adams. It's a good game. I have not had time for any video games in a while. I would really love to have some time to try. There's some sort of is it called Dispatch or something like that? It's a superhero game. I've heard good things about that from people on here, but I just have not had any time to even play 5 minutes of a video game. I'm trying real hard to put out more episodes of the show on my main channel, because it definitely helps the views to just come out with content a little faster than I've been doing. So I'm just trying to I found that I can do a little less sleep and just create a schedule, and I can get out episodes a little faster. The best heroes have torture dungeons. Thank you, Kevin, for watching the Phantom of the Fair episode. I appreciate that one. I appreciate that. Oh, Grizzly Adams is back, is he? What a hero. He had a bear, I want to say named Ben. Anyway. The new Criminal comic is a Ricky Lawless story? Wait, I thought that was coming out as a full trade paperback. Are you telling me that the issue that was in stores this past week, like the monthly floppy, is a new Criminal comic? Because if so, I missed that. And I need to know, because I love Criminal. I just didn't want to buy something that I already had. But it sounds like maybe I'm not aware. It was Ben. Oh, it's a one-shot. Oh. Well, I would have been reviewing that tonight if I had known that. I feel so dumb that I didn't know that, since I am maybe the biggest fan of Criminal. I love it. Thank you for telling me that so that I can get properly caught up. Is that the sound a predator makes? I don't know. Oh, I didn't really pick a book of the week out of all of these, did I? Give me a second here. What could it be? What could it be now? What could it be now? I'm going to be ruthless and start by limiting it to these 4 books. Ultimate Universe 2 Years In, Orphan and the Five Beasts, Bath of Blood, issue 3, Batman, issue 4, and Startling Tales of Santa Claus. So I admire the creativity of this, and I really enjoyed it, but it also isn't like quite to the level that these are, and I think Dennis Camp has written a few other interesting things. So just by virtue of how good he's been this year, that's not going to be my pick of the week. Even though I really admire Batman, it's also just sort of like, an ongoing serialized comic. It's just top tier as far as that goes. So I get to like sort of the creative highs of Orphan and the Five Beasts and the utterly unique one-shot nature of this Santa Claus book. And I'm biased, I guess, because it's my friends. But I do think that this has enough that's new to me for Christmas and Santa lore. It has some amazingly charming art and several different art styles as well. Several different types of stories really helped get me in the mood for the holidays as well at this point in the month. This is my pick for book of the week. Startling Tales of Santa Claus. Good luck. I hope you consider picking it up if you haven't already. If you show your wife a YouTube the cover of Come and Follow Me from the new Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock, she'll want to watch it immediately. Okay. Noted. We will try to do that. Was it the first episode of Tales from the Crypt was a Christmas episode? I guess I don't really remember that. That's interesting. Who would be a great choice to adapt Stray Bullets to TV? David Lynch. He's not around anymore. Who would be good for Vince Gilligan? Yeah, he could do it. He could do it great. That's my choice. Hey, Gojira versus Mothra. That's fun. Does anybody have a favorite Godzilla movie? I think mine at this point is the newest one. Godzilla -1. I think that's my favorite right now. And I don't say that lightly. I'm a big Godzilla fan. -1, hard to beat. Yeah. Some of my other favorites are the original. I think holds up incredibly well. I liked Shin Godzilla a lot. It's very talky compared to some Godzillas, but I felt like I really cared about the characters and I could relate to the problem they were trying to solve. I'm a big fan of the craziness of Final Wars. And then I really just enjoy a bunch of them with like just cool monsters. I like Space Godzilla. I like Destoroyah. I like Hedorah. I think Hedorah is sort of an underrated Godzilla monster. The smog monster. Biollante. Biollante, so good. If they ever wanted to re-envision Biollante or Hedorah for sort of the -1 universe or the Godzilla Kong universe, I think both of those could be actually re-envisioned. Very, very cool. That's a fun scene, definitely. Godzilla versus Aliens versus Predator. I think Godzilla would easily stomp all of them. Biollante is a really interesting design. Godzilla versus Biollante. Godzilla versus Mothra 2. -1. So -1 is your third favorite. Versus Hedorah, Gojira, and Gojira versus Destoroyah. I admired the look of it, but there just wasn't enough Godzilla for me out of it. And it's also just crazy to think like how sort of grounded and realistic the American Monsterverse started versus how utterly bonkers the second Godzilla versus Kong movie was. Like they have gone so they started like kind of grounded like the original Godzilla and then quickly jumped to the 1970s camp Godzilla. You know, I don't think I've ever seen that. I would watch a documentary about that. Nice. I've got the Criterion collection of the entire Showa period, and I kept expecting them to announce like the Heisei or the Millennium Criterion collection, but no. I would think that it would sell well. I don't know. Maybe the days of buying like big Blu-ray collections are gone now that everything is streaming. Maybe that's what happened. I didn't even think about that until just now. Because I'll be honest, I definitely buy less physical media these days. And I don't like that, but it's not as convenient as streaming. And so I do stream more often than I grab a physical disc. If I'm going to watch a physical disc, the only way I have to play it is on my my gaming system down here in the basement, not like upstairs on my big TV. I don't have that connected to like a Blu-ray player. I wish I could do that. I love physical media, and I do think out of all the streaming services, I get the most value, no question, out of YouTube. Because it's like so creator focused, you know? The 1985 Godzilla. The poor suit actor whose head caught on fire during Godzilla versus Mothra. Oh man, I didn't know about that. One of the suit actors for Godzilla was at last year's Tokyo Comic-Con, and Dave, West Coast Dave Vengers, got a Godzilla like painting by him, and it's really good. I'd have to ask Dave who the actor / artist was. I don't remember, but it super cool, like a great piece of art, and as a Godzilla fan, like just a really cool thing to own as well. I was like, that's cool. That's legit very cool. Good idea. When it comes to buying original art, like something like that, it actually means something, you know? It looks good. It's got some history behind it. Good purchase. Let's see. Just to double check, the Criterion box set that you have doesn't have any of the campy dubs, does it? I don't think so. You know what? I guess I don't know, because now that I think of it, I watch those movies in Japanese with the English subtitle. That's how I've watched it. So I haven't looked. I just realized I haven't looked to see if it has a dub. I don't know. It may or may not. I just don't know. I didn't look for it. That's kind of funny that I didn't even think to look, but I didn't. I just played them. I think that's just generally what I prefer to do for like movies and anime and stuff like that. As I prefer listening in Japanese and putting on the subtitle. I'm not against dubs. I'm really not. I guess I just generally prefer the subtitle. That's funny to think that I didn't think to check on something like that, but yeah, I don't think I did. What else did I want to talk about? Let's see. I mentioned the poll that's going up on Patreon. I mentioned the new episode up on Comic Tropes. I mentioned that I saw Pluribus. I haven't had time for any movies lately, unfortunately. Oh, I know. This isn't that interesting, I suppose, but I went to a Christmas party with my coworkers last night, and it's possible that I dressed up as Santa and carried around a sack of surprise presents from Five Below that people could reach in and take. Or was I just taking a monster shit in the bathroom and I missed Santa like I do every year? Might be that. It's hard to say. Now that was fun. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's also my voice for Abraham Lincoln, I think. Depends which movie you're watching, whether it's a dub or... I know what you mean. Actually, Cowboy Bebop is one of the ones that I think I've always listened to in English. And that goes back to, I think the first thing of Cowboy Bebop I saw, which is probably a weird way to get into it, but was the movie, which I saw in the theaters with a friend who really liked it and was like, you got to check this out. He's like, ideally you've watched the show, but it should work because it's standalone. It's set like, during the show, not like after. Or so yeah, I think that was my introduction, and that was in English, and I liked the voice actors. So yeah, I guess that is one of the few that I've definitely watched in English versus Japanese. I've never seen Lupin the Third. I should. Is Santa making another visit to the comic troopers? Maybe. Maybe. We're not quite there yet, so it's hard to say. It's possible. It's possible. I wouldn't quite call it my favorite, but it's very, very good, and I totally understand. I totally understand. Wait, they rotoscope animated the English actors into the opening of the Cowboy Bebop movie. They did? I guess I got to rewatch it. I didn't know that. Huh. Oh, that's kind of you. Cowboy Bebop is great. The music, the story, the fact that it has such a definitive end to it. It's funny. It's got great character work. if you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend it. Yeah, it's not much of a lift either because it's just one season of a show, somewhere around 26 episodes. If that isn't quite right, it's close, and then a 2-hour movie, or close to it anyway. And that's everything. If you watch that, you've seen it all, and you've seen it all. It's good. It's real good. Every once in a while, a little heartbreaking too. It's got some really damaged and challenged characters that go through some tough stuff, real tough stuff. Trying to think of like other favorite anime TV shows. I like FLCL. I was about to not call it because it's only like 4 episodes, but that was TV, and it's not a movie. It's 4 episodes of a TV show, and I think that's pretty great. Some of the best animation that I think the studio ever did. I've seen that. Yeah, I think that they also did sort of an anime version of just like a TIE fighter pilot. I think that's the same animator. I'm not. Oh, is Standalone Complex one of the Ghost in the Shell movies? I haven't seen that, but I think that's what it is, right? Do I prefer the original Japanese Godzilla movie? Oh, definitely the original Godzilla. Raymond Burr is a fine actor, but that like none of his scenes are necessary at all in the American version. He's like, all he's doing is recounting what's happening. It's like I can already see that, you know. So no, definitely the original version. Only a tiny bit, to be honest. No, I'm not much of a Robotech expert at all. I'm not super familiar with it. FLCL became an anthology series. Oh, yeah, I never saw any of the follow-up ones that they did a few years back. I never saw any of that. It's set in the world of Ghost in the Shell. Oh, okay. TV series and a couple movies. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I love the original Ghost in the Shell anime. I think that's the only one I've seen. Ghost in the Shell has a lot of adaptations and stuff, so I haven't seen all of it. Yeah, not. There's a lot of stuff that I'm like, you know, as a nerd, I'm familiar with some of it, but I wouldn't ever consider myself an expert. And yeah, so manga, I feel like every day I'm becoming a little more familiar as I dig deeper, and also like modern. Not an expert per se, but I definitely admire manga a lot. And there's a lot of ones that I would consider favorites at this point. I'm glad that there's still so much for me to discover. The more I read comics, you know, you have to find sort of new niches to keep entertaining yourself. And right now, manga's become a big one. I think at some point I could see myself becoming also, you know, a big reader of bande dessinée. You know, dig more into say Mobius and Lieutenant Blueberry and things like that. There are lots of things that I'm like, I know a little, and someday I bet like I'll want to know more, and I'll dig into it, and yeah, I'd like to become more of an expert on a bunch of this stuff, but I wouldn't call myself an expert on anything foreign, really. I just have what I like. Yeah, that's another one I know nothing about so far. Full Metal Alchemist. I could recognize the sort of knight golem thing from it in cosplay form, but that's about it. A spin-off? YouTube will not reward that, unfortunately. Good night. Thanks for stopping by. I'd like to see an anime style or Gendy Tartovsky show that adapts the action shows of Hanna-Barbera. Just go nuts at those IPs. It would be interesting, just like, say, Dynamite is doing with things like Johnny Quest for comics or Space Ghost, like see a modern, like really well animated show version of that just takes the ideas and totally updates it all. That would be actually pretty cool, I think. I like that idea. I've got a buddy that watched Primal and really liked it. I don't have a lot of time for TV because of the time it takes me to do both my day job and comic tropes. So, that's just the sacrifice I've opted to make. That, I love games, I love TV, but I got to cut some of it out so that I can do enough content. Oh, I know something I can tell you. Chrissy had a great idea last week for me, and it'll take me a little while to do, but I'm excited to offer this. I actually, at one point, taught a writing for comics class at a place called the Writers Center in Bethesda, Maryland, and I did that for several years. Basically, someone had given it's a school essentially that teaches all different types of writing. It could be poetry, creative writing, screenwriting, all sorts of writing classes by experts and stuff. And somebody gave the Writers Center a large grant and said, I think you should teach writing for comics. Find someone to do it. If they've got a good proposal, here's all the money for it. So the Writers Center was like, geez, how do we find a writer for comics here in Bethesda, Maryland? Well, I was part of a group that had put together a regular meetup of comic book artists and writers, just, indie stuff. And we would put on a convention every year. We self-published all sorts of comics together. It was wonderful. The DC Conspiracy was the name of our group. Loved some of the people that I met there. Really talented. Gave me a lot of appreciation for indie comics and how to self-publish. Taught me a lot. Anyway, they came to us, and so I helped create a syllabus, and I taught many semesters, and several of my students were able to publish comics. I was very proud of them. Not all of them, but not all of them necessarily had that as a goal. Some of them just wanted to appreciate it or learn something new. And Chrissy was like, why don't, you did that. And it was a long time ago now, but, you did that. Like, why not offer that as sort of, extra like paid content, extra paid content through your Patreon? Like, if somebody wants to learn that, you could have all these different videos that are your lesson plans and stuff. And I was like, wow, that's actually a really good idea. I mean, I know that I'm not Scott Snyder or Tom King or Robert Kirkman. I know that, but I think I've studied the form, and I have published stuff, and I think that I've taught enough that I do think that there's some benefit to be gathered from it. And I can't believe I never considered that before. I'm going to go ahead and create those. I'm going to create like maybe 6 to 7 hour-long sort of classes about different aspects of writing for comics, of pitching, of collaborating, editing, things like that, and just offer them each as, just sort of like a paid video that you could get access to through Patreon. because why not? I need to find ways to be a little smarter about how to monetize what I'm doing as my main source of income, which is videos. I need to have some really cool, fun merch. I love drawing and designing, but I haven't sat down and created some of that stuff. I should. I really should. So I'm going to try throughout 2026 to do 3 things for myself as it relates. One, create those videos, hopefully help some people learn some steps for the writing process. 2, try to create some merch for the channel, just some fun t-shirts and things like that. And then 3, I really do want to take some time to find an artist that would be willing to draw one of my comic book ideas and maybe do that as something like a Kickstarter. So those are my 3 goals for 2026. I'll just say it before everybody says, oh, it's January 1st. Here's my resolution. Those are my goals right now. That's pretty funny. Maybe I will do something with Omega, my old superhero persona. I don't know what I want to call it. Anyway, yeah. So just letting you know some behind the scenes stuff of goals. It's tricky, you got to keep coming up with new goals so that you never stay stagnant, but you have to have realistic goals that are achievable. And I think I've had realistic goals, and I've honestly fallen short, because I really thought that this year I'd find a way to have the time to make one of my comics. And obviously we are nearing the end of the year, and I have not made that happen. And I feel like I'm letting myself down, but also sometimes some of the people in my orbit that have encouraged me over the years. And I'm like, yeah, I should at least try it, I get it done. And who knows, maybe it'll create a new revenue stream, or maybe I'll have a sense of creative fulfillment. There's a lot of different ways that it could benefit me. I think, health-wise, mentally health-wise, I think I'd feel very satisfied if I got more stuff down on paper. I should go back to my hobo. I once had an idea to make a HoboCop series of funny videos. This was a long time ago. I didn't know that I talked to you about that, Chuck. But yeah, he was going to be part hobo, part robot, part cop. And I was going to make videos where I basically just made sort of a tinfoil and cardboard visor reminiscent of RoboCop, and then just got some stuff at Goodwill, maybe the upper body of football pads, and just sort of walked around with a bindle solving crime. Did I have you draw it at some point? Oh my God. That's crazy. Chuck, I'm sorry that I forget, but it also speaks to how long we've known each other that did not immediately enter my mind. I am so that totally. We've known each other for a long time and done a bunch of different things together. Thank you, though. You have 20 cents to comply. Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, well, I think that it's 8 o'clock. I think I should make myself some dinner. I'm also trying to actually be quiet because Chrissy is doing her final presentation for one of her college classes right now. She's online upstairs doing that. I'm very proud of her. She's turned in her final projects. She's doing a final presentation. She's about to finish her semester. And as far as I know, straight A's. Very proud of my wife for doing that, especially dealing with health issues on top of it. Maybe, I sort of remember that movie. I know I came up with HoboCop originally somewhere around 99. My buddy and I were going to make some videos, but we just never had the time. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if it's quite worth it, but maybe it could make a funny comic. I don't know about that, but if you came to my house, you would see a giant painting that Chuck once did. He did, Chuck, in addition to these comics that I was talking about tonight, Chuck has all sorts of interesting art history. He's worked for game studios on video games, and he's done comics, and he's also painted. And I bought one of his paintings from a series where he showed various famous queens turned into like Freddie Mercury as that queen. So I got Freddie Mercury as Queen Amidala from Star Wars. It's a very big painting. I like it quite a bit, and that's up on my wall. And yeah. Oh, it's all smoke and mirrors, you know. If you don't know what you want to do, you just sort of add lots and lots of dark colors to it, lots of shadows and lots of details, and it just tricks the eye into thinking it's more than it is. But thank you. No, I appreciate the compliment. I'm trying. This was fun. What else? I felt like there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and all of a sudden it's not coming to me. I let it slip my mind. Nah. Anyway, if you haven't had a chance, would definitely appreciate it if you gave a watch to my latest Comic Tropes video about a very strange Golden Age character. This week, I'm creating an episode about just a strange superhero Christmassy TV show thing. Not quite comics, but hopefully it's enough fun that that's okay. I will do a small Christmas comic review for my patrons. I'll let them vote. And then I'll be probably focusing on figuring out what my top 10 comics of the year were. And that's going to be very tricky. That's very tricky to think of. Jim would be good at drawing a character like Hobocop. That's true. He's joked recently that he's going to create a new character called Sushi Boy. I want to see what that looks like. I had a great time talking with everybody tonight. What comics are you looking forward to that are in the near future that have been announced? I'm looking forward to more of the deluxe edition Lone Wolf and Cub from Dark Horse. I'm looking forward to more Criminal. Is there anything? I'm looking forward to more Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman for superhero stuff. I'm trying to think of like new things that have been announced, like in the creator world. It's not coming to me right now, but I'm sure it will as soon as I end the stream. You may have noticed I've sort of backed off on doing as many interviews. I love doing interviews. They always sort of bring views down for some reason. It's a different pacing. I'm talking about both here and on the main Comic Tropes channel. But I'm not saying no to doing more because I do enjoy what I get out of them. And I think that the people that do watch them get something very valuable out of them. But I have backed off on doing as many right now. To answer this question real quick, I have not read that comic, but I do admire both creators. So at some point, I will like reading that. Yeah, that could potentially be very good. And I like noir. So seeing them on something crime does interest me. You know what comes out this Wednesday that I'm excited about? Like, I'm excited about Absolute Batman revealing Absolute Joker. I'm looking forward to that. So, I've heard good things about that one shot. I've been only reading the main title, so I didn't see that, but yeah. Anyway, all right. I've dawdled on long enough. I'm going to take off, folks. Thank you so much. And hey, let me leave you with this. Double salute. Keep reading comics. Bye.